Chapter 2168. Let me go. Otherwise, when I wake up, I will make you wish you were dead. Rizu roared. Yi Fei's expression was cold. You're about to die, yet you still dare to threaten me. It's true that you're the human ancestor, but you're already dead. The current you is nothing more than a consciousness that can't even be considered a ghost. Little grass, continue smashing. Smash once and I will reward you with a Xian vein. Boom. Just as he finished speaking, Xiao Chao heard that he could get a Xian vein for every smash. He was instantly energized. The speed of his little hand instantly became like a violent storm. Yi Fei suddenly felt heartache. If Rizu didn't die, how many Xian veins would he have to give out? Especially when there was a black tortoise beside him. It furtively helped to count, as if it was afraid that Yi Fei would remember wrongly. Yi Fei's face twitched violently. But soon Yi Fei's eyes lit up again. I don't have that many Xian veins, but these princes and princes must have a lot of Xian stones and Xian veins. Especially Lu Qianzhong. As the son of a divine lord, he must have a lot of treasures on him. Thinking of this, Yi Fei immediately walked towards Lu Qianzhong's broken corpse and found Lu Qianzhong's space belt. Then, he quickly walked towards the thunder sword that was still stuck in the ground. This was a Renzu weapon. It was very powerful. Just the aura of Renzu's origin alone was enough to make Yi Fei's eyes light up. It was extremely hot. Yi Fei naturally didn't hold back. Taking advantage of the fact that Rizu's divine consciousness was imprisoned by Xiao Chao, he didn't hold back and happily accepted this Renzu weapon. Brat, you have gone too far. When my true body awakens, I will definitely kill you. Rizu's divine sense was incomparably furious when he sensed that his divine weapon had been stolen. However, there was nothing he could do. Xiao Chao's five-colored divine light seemed to be the natural nemesis of divine sense. No matter how hard Rizu tried, he was unable to break free from the confinement of the divine light. Not only that, as Xiao Chao's divine light continued to smash down and his divine sense was exposed to the outside world for a long time, Rizu's divine sense was greatly damaged. Rizu became completely nervous, and his tone suddenly became soft. Little brother, let me go. I can take you in as my disciple and teach you the great Tao of Renzu. Rizu's threat failed, so he changed to temptation. Yi Fei sneered. You even deceived your loyal subordinates and set up such a shocking scam. I don't dare to believe your words. You can forget about the inheritance. However, since you faked your death, you must have hidden a lot of treasures on you. If I'm not wrong, these treasures should be in that golden mountain. In the ancient coffin. With every word Yi Fei said, Rizu's face turned paler. In the end Rizu roared, You can't kill me. Even if you let this little girl destroy my divine sense, my main body will still produce a new one. One day my main body will be resurrected. When that time comes, you will know. How terrifying would it be to offend a Renzu? Bastard, what are you doing? Bam! Just as Rizu was cursing and threatening, Yi Fei had already rushed to the ancient golden coffin and pushed it open. Soon, a middle-aged man with a dignified face and a thunderbolt symbol on his forehead appeared from within the coffin. This middle-aged man looked serene and seemed to be in deep sleep. Only 2 vicious fang marks appeared on his neck. Even after thousands of years, when Yi Fei opened the ancient coffin, he was almost suffocated by the aura emitted by the fang marks. He hurriedly held his breath and activated his golden body of laws. Only then was he able to resist the aura of the fang marks. His heart was also filled with shock. What kind of fang are these? They are so terrifying that even Renzu couldn't resist them and could only fake his death to prolong his life. Yi Fei's expression was grave, but his eyes quickly brightened. Besides the fang marks on Rizu's body, he also found a very exquisite space belt. Needless to say, this was Rizu's space belt. Yi Fei didn't dare to touch Rizu's body with his hands. Instead, he condensed 2 hands of dark force, reached in, and grabbed the gorgeous space belt. This exalted's crystal love. Vile creature, shameless thief. You snatched away this exalted's ancestral armament, and even dared to snatch away this exalted's crystal love. Rizu was furious. His divine sense burned like a raging fire. Clearly, this space belt called crystal love was very important to Rizu. Squeak, squeak, squeak. Seeing that Rizu refused to be obedient even after being imprisoned and even threatened Yi Fei, Xiao Chao was even angrier now. He waved his little hands even faster. Next to Xiao Chao stood a big black tortoise. It held a small wooden tablet and kept recording Xiao Chao's beatings. The number of times Rizu was recorded. For example, every time Xiao Chao threw Rizu up, the dragon tortoise would record it twice. Every time Rizu fell down, the dragon tortoise would record it thrice. Originally, Xiao Chao was still counting 1, 2, 3, 4 and was very clear. However, when the dragon tortoise interrupted, Xiao Chao suddenly lost count. He only remembered that he threw Rizu down many times and fell down many times. As for exactly how many times he threw Rizu down, he could only let the dragon tortoise randomly write on the wooden tablet. As Xiao Chao kept getting beaten up, and his divine sense was exposed to the outside world for a longer and longer time, Rizu's divine sense finally became extremely weak. He didn't even have the strength to curse. This made Xiao Chao hesitate. He didn't know whether he should continue or not. In the end, Xiao Chao was a kind person. Saying that he wanted to beat Rizu to death was just something he said out of anger. Xiao Chao turned his head to look at Yi Fei again. Xiao Chao, be good. Keep an eye on Rizu's divine sense first. Wait until I take off his clothes first. As if taking the crystal of love wasn't enough, Yi Fei soon discovered that Rizu's clothes were also treasured. Not only were they impenetrable, but they also seemed to be able to resist inner demons. Yi Fei naturally wouldn't let go of such a treasure. He directly took off Rizu's treasured clothes. Then, Yi Fei discovered that Rizu's boots were also treasured boots. They had the power of wind and thunder on them. Without another word, he immediately took off his boot. Then, Yi Fei was completely shocked. Renzu's entire body is really a treasure. Rizu's socks have a total of 6 spirit attachments, and his underwear has a total of 5 spirit attachments. Boom. It would have been better if Yi Fei didn't say this. When he heard that Yi Fei not only took off his dragon skin treasured clothes, but also his boots and socks, even though he was a Renzu realm expert, Rizu was so angry that his divine sense exploded. He let out an incomparably furious roar. Bastard demon, I would rather die than be humiliated. Just you wait, when my true body awakens, it will be the time of your death. Rizu's divine sense suddenly exploded at this moment. Then, using this energy, Rizu finally broke through Xiao Chao's rainbow divine light shackles. Chapter 2169. Yi Fei was very depressed. If he had known that those ghost dragons could escape with Rizu's body, he would have asked Xiao Chao to imprison those 4 ghost dragons as well. It was useless to regret now. In the void, the 4 ghost dragons had already rushed out with Rizu. Yi Fei didn't know that the outside of the Grotto Heaven world was already filled with people. There was the Lord of Heaven of the Yunxue Nation, the Western Qin Nation, and the Skyriver Nation, who were in charge of protecting the princes. There were also the 2 Dao Lords, Old Man Qing Yun and Chen Yang. There were also the Medicine King, Gao Shen, and the Iron Lord of Heaven. Behind these heaven monarchs there were many young martial artists who were dejected. They were Guiyun, Gao Jun, Gao Shen, and the other young warriors who had entered the Grotto Heaven world. These people were the most outstanding young people in Qingzhou. Unfortunately, they had all failed the test of the Thunder Ancient Path and had been teleported out. In addition to them, there were 3 frightened women. They were the 3 masked women that Yi Fei had rescued. After Yi Fei left, they had escaped but were immediately discovered by Dao Lord Chen Yang and imprisoned again. After all, these women were all by Yun God Lord. In order to let Lu Qianzhong obtain Rizu, the tool of the inheritance, they should have been robbed of their bloodlines and died inside, but now they had successfully escaped. This gave Chen Yang a very bad premonition. This time, it's fine if His Highness Qianzhong successfully obtains Rizu's inheritance. If he fails, I will definitely teach that Aunt Yi Fei a lesson. Chen Yang's face was gloomy. After Guiyun came out, he told Yang Chen about Yi Fei's action of saving people. This also made Chen Yang and the Medicine King unable to suppress their killing intent. Guo Tianjun, on the other hand, was deeply worried. However, he secretly sent the news back to Black Rock Peak. Not long after, there was a loud explosion in the Grotto Heaven world. It sounded like a ghost dragon roaring, but also like a powerful existence roaring in anger. The roar directly tore the restriction that Rizu had set up in the Grotto Heaven world. Then, everyone saw in disbelief that a middle-aged man wearing only underwear and socks rushed out of the broken Grotto Heaven world. Renzu. He has Renzu's aura. That's Rizu's corpse. Could it be that Rizu mutated? Dao Lord Chen Yang came from Zhongzhou. He was the first to discover the terrifying origin of Renzu in the middle-aged man's body. It's very likely that Rizu didn't die. Of course, it's very likely that he didn't die. Perhaps Rizu didn't even die's origin. It's very likely Rizu didn't die. After all, Renzu was already at the peak of martial arts. How could such an expert die so easily? But ancestor, why isn't Rizu wearing any clothes? Gao Sickle, who was beside him, suddenly asked a difficult question. As the powerful human ancestor who had once unified the Qing province, regardless of whether the lightning ancestor was really dead or not, just watching the lightning ancestor being carried away by the ghost dragon into the distance was a very strange thing in itself. However, no one dared to stop the escape of the lightning ancestor's corpse. After all, the lightning ancestor was still surrounded by the 4 ghost dragons. They were extremely powerful ghost dragons. However, when they saw Rizu's corpse suddenly shatter the Grotto Heaven world, many people present had an ominous premonition. Since it's very likely that Rizu isn't dead, then will Rizu's inheritance really be in this Grotto Heaven world? Oh no, His Highness might be in danger. Lord Daoist Chen Yang was the first to react. He even took the lead to rush towards the hole in the Grotto Heaven world. Old man Qin Yun, the Medicine King, and the Lord of Heaven were not slow at all. After all, no one would easily give up the opportunity to enter Renzu's Grotto Heaven world. Squeak! Within the Grotto Heaven, Xiao Chao also quickly sensed a large number of experts rapidly approaching. Xiao Chao did not dare to stay outside. He grabbed the dragon turtle's tail and hurriedly ran towards Yi Fei's side. Yi Fei's expression changed. Originally, he wanted to take the opportunity to kill the unconscious Bai Lung and remove a threat. However, it was obvious that there was no time for that now. The only thing he could do was to return to the bottom of the divine pillar as quickly as possible. As he retrieved Xiao Chao and the dragon turtle, his eyes rolled back and his legs collapsed. He fell to the ground. He was already exhaling more than he was inhaling. He looked like he was about to die. At this moment, a powerful Lord Daoist aura rushed in from the torn Grotto Heaven world and landed directly on the ancient golden coffin. It's Rizu's divine coffin. Could it really be Rizu's corpse that flew out just now? Or perhaps Rizu is not dead at all? Lord Daoist Chen Yang's expression was uncertain. Old man Qin Yun was also puzzled. If Rizu is not dead, why did he run away? Although he was unwilling to admit it, the lightning ancestor's appearance just now really did look like he was fleeing. No one answered old man Qin Yun's question. At this moment, Lord Daoist Chen Yang was staring at the figures lying haphazardly in the middle of the 5 dragon bone divine pillars under the ancient coffin. Chen Yang was very familiar with one of the figures. It was Lu Qianzhong, but the dead Lu Qianzhong. His Highness Qianzhong is dead. Chen Yang's eyes were spitting fire. He was shocked and furious. He did not dare to imagine how furious Lord Baiyun would be if he brought this news back to the Divine Land. Who is it? Who killed His Highness Qianzhong? I'm going to exterminate his entire family and destroy him 10,000 times. Boom! A terrifying Lord Taoist's aura fell on the ground like a heavy mountain. Bai Lung and the other two, who were still unconscious, immediately screamed in pain. Ghost! Ghost! Don't kill me, Rizu. Spare me. We shouldn't have desecrated your heroic spirit. Xiao Yang and Qin Wuyang were still immersed in the invasion of Ghost Dragon's consciousness. They did not have any impression of what happened later. Bai Lung did not say a word. There seemed to be deep fear in his eyes. Yi Fei also grunted. He was injured by the Lord Taoist's aura and spat out a mouthful of blood. Blood. However, no one was paying attention to him at this moment. Everyone was looking at Lu Qianzhong's corpse. The Lord of Heaven of the three countries rushed to the prince they were protecting immediately. Then, their expressions changed drastically. Who is it? How cruel! Not only did he almost destroy His Highness's consciousness, but he also stole 2/3 of his bloodline power. He almost became a cripple. The Lord of Heaven of the three countries was furious. They had reason to be furious. After all, Rizu's methods were too vicious. Yi Fei was secretly relieved. If it weren't for Xiao Chao, who happened to have obtained the inheritance of the Spirit Immortal tribe, he would have been doomed even if he had the undying sword soul. Subsequently, Yi Fei pretended to be very injured and crawled up weakly. He sat cross-legged and began to regulate his breathing. It was only then that the heaven monarchs of the three great kingdoms realized what was going on. They quickly consumed their own heaven monarch origin and frantically transferred it to Bai Lung and the other two to help them stabilize their injuries. Chapter 2170. Boom! Bai Lung's words shocked everyone present. Lord Taoist Chen Yang, who was inspecting Lu Qianzhong's corpse, stood up angrily and glared at Yi Fei fiercely. Did you kill His Highness Qianzhong? Yi Fei shook his head coldly. I didn't kill Lu Qianzhong. What he said was the truth. The one who killed Lu Qianzhong was Rizu. Actually, when Lu Qianzhong had pulled out the human ancestor's weapon, he had basically been possessed by the lightning ancestor. Later, when Yi Fei awakened his bloodline and released the divine tribulation, he only cut off Rizu's control over Lu Qianzhong's body. That was all. Hearing this, Lord Taoist Chen Yang became hesitant. He had carefully inspected Lu Qianzhong's injuries just now. The remaining power was extremely terrifying. Even he, a Lord Taoist, felt terrified. At this moment, Guiyun suddenly stood up. He scolded coldly, Yi Fei, do you still want to hide it now? If you hadn't gone against His Highness Qianzhong time and time again and prevented him from entering the inheritance palace, he wouldn't have died. At the end of the day, even if you didn't kill him personally, you were the one who harmed him. He's dead. Guiyun, you're really stupid. If I hadn't stopped Lu Qianzhong from entering the inheritance palace, he would have died even faster. Can't you see that there's no such thing as the lightning ancestor's legacy here? This is clearly a trap set up by the lightning ancestor. Yi Fei's words were powerful and resonating. He was right. However, this was something that none of the people present could accept. After all, in order to obtain the lightning ancestor's inheritance, they had sent all of their most outstanding disciples here. Yet, they had ended up with disastrous casualties and nothing to show for it. This was something that they could not accept. Lord Taoist Chen Yang looked at Yi Fei with a murderous gaze. His Highness Qianzhong can't die in vain. Someone must pay for his death. As for you, you dared to oppose His Highness repeatedly in the lightning ancestor's tomb. You must die. Boom. The Tao Lord's aura on Chen Yang's body was like a blade that cut countless cracks in the space. Lu Qianzhong's death had caused the Tao Lord to vent his anger on Yi Fei. Guiyun and Bai Lung also stared at Yi Fei with sinister smiles on their faces, as if they were waiting for Yi Fei to reveal a look of fear under the threat of death. However, Yi Fei wasn't afraid. In the face of Dao Lord's death threat, he revealed a sarcastic smile. Going against Lu Qianzhong in Rizu's tomb means death. Then, Bai Ling, Qin Wuyang and Xiao Yang, these three princes, none of them can escape. Because here, not only were they going against Lu Qianzhong, but they were also going against him. They even planned to kill Lu Qianzhong when Lu Qianzhong was heavily injured. He kept saying that Lu Qianzhong was His Highness, but when Lu Qianzhong fought with us, he hid behind and watched us fight with Lu Qianzhong. Then according to Dao Monarch's logic, shouldn't these three members of the royal family die? Shouldn't a useless subordinate like Guo Yun be killed? Yi Fei's voice suddenly became louder and louder, sounding like thunder. Guo Yun's face immediately turned pale. Bai Ling, who had framed Yi Fei the moment he woke up, also turned pale. Nonsense. A bunch of nonsense. Yi Fei, don't talk nonsense without evidence. Xiao Yang and Qin Wuyang roared furiously. However, the louder they roared, the more guilty they felt. The Lord of Heaven wasn't a fool. After thinking for a while, he understood that Yi Fei's words were most likely true. They looked at Dao Lord Chen Yang with fear. The Pill King's face twitched violently. He slapped Guo Yun on the spot, causing half of his face to swell up. Dao Lord, I didn't teach my son well. He's such a coward. Please have mercy on him. The Pill King pleaded with Dao Lord Chen Yang again. After all, the impact of Lu Qianzhong's death was too great. If they didn't clear their names quickly, no one could bear the anger of Dao Lord Chen Yang and Bai Yun God behind him. The Lord of Heaven of the Three Kingdoms also came to their senses and cupped their hands towards Chen Yang. Dao Lord, please understand. The princes of the Three Kingdoms definitely didn't intend to go against His Highness Qianzhong. It's all this kid's fault. Dao Lord, please kill him and avenge His Highness Qianzhong. Chen Yang nodded with a gloomy face. Don't worry. I'm a person who knows right from wrong. I know who should be killed and who shouldn't. The three princes can't go against His Highness Qianzhong. But you, if you didn't go against His Highness time and time again, His Highness wouldn't have died in Rizu's tomb. Boom. Endless killing intent formed a hurricane that pressed down on Yi Fei. It tried to force Yi Fei to kneel on the ground and accept Chen Yang's death. Yi Fei's face was filled with anger. He didn't kneel down. Instead, he gritted his teeth and clenched his fists with red eyes. He stood there like a sharp sword that would rather break than bend. An even stronger sneer flashed across his face. What a good way to distinguish right from wrong. You know that the three princes are all involved in going against Lu Qianzhong. You know that I'm not the one who killed Lu Qianzhong, but you still want to kill me. Why? Because Lu Qianzhong's death has too many implications. If you don't find out who killed Lu Qianzhong, you won't be able to answer to Bai Yun God. But the three princes all have Dao Lords behind them. If you attack them, the Dao Lords behind them will definitely kill you at all costs. The Medicine Lord is also a good friend. So, you can only attack me. Because I don't have any Dao Lords behind me, I'm the best scapegoat. Yi Fei's face was fierce. He analyzed Lord Daoist Chen Yang's current state of mind. Hearing this, Lord Daoist Chen Yang's killing intent boiled even more. He didn't say anything, but his actions had tacitly agreed with Yi Fei's words. The merciless Dao Lord's aura turned into an even more terrifying pressure that wanted to force Yi Fei to his knees and kill him in an instant. Dao Lord Chen Yang's cold voice sounded in his ears. You're right, but so what? Even if you understand this, you'll still die in the end. Who told you to be so weak? You're just an insignificant nobody, an ant that I can kill with a slap. Boom! Lord Daoist Chen Yang raised his hand and directly slapped Yi Fei through the air, wanting to kill him on the spot. Yi Fei was calm in the face of this. He only suddenly looked coldly at the Lord Daoist Chen Yang, who was hiding in the crowd. That glance also made the Lord Daoist Chen Yang's body tremble. Then, the Lord Taoist Chen Yang let out a tragic roar and suddenly charged out. In front of Yi Fei, he also blocked Lord Taoist Chen Yang's killing blow. Guo Sankai, what are you doing? The King of Medicine was incomparably furious. He suspected that the Lord Taoist Chen Yang had taken the wrong medicine recently. How dare he jump out to protect Yi Fei at this time? You want to protect him? Very well, then both of you can die together. Lord Taoist Chen Yang was completely enraged. He raised his hand and an even more terrifying mystic Qi giant palm was about to slap Yi Fei and the Lord Taoist Chen Yang to death. The Lord Taoist Chen Yang's face was pale. He grabbed Yi Fei's shoulder and was about to fly into the air. Young master, let's escape. Where do you think you're going? Traitor, I'll personally clean up the house today. Hearing the Lord Taoist Chen Yang address Yi Fei like a slave, the King of Medicine was suddenly enraged. He led the Lord Taoist Chen Yang, wanting to kill the traitor on the spot. Chapter 2171. If it wasn't Old Man Qin Yun, who else could it be? The King of Medicine and his subordinates were bewildered. Lord Taoist Chen Yang seemed to have noticed something. He looked at the sky not far away in surprise and saw a sinister-looking old man in blue walking over step by step. Lord Taoist Chen Yang was very familiar with this old man. Old Man Qin Yun couldn't help but be surprised. Soaring Snake, you've also become a Tao Lord. If the West Qin royal family hadn't plotted against me, I would have broken through long ago. Why would I wait until now? Tao Lord Meng Shi descended from the sky. A powerful Tao Lord aura suddenly erupted from his body, causing the faces of all the heavenly lords present to change drastically. The heavenly lords of the West Qin Empire and Qin Wuyang both had ugly looks on their faces. After all, it was the West Qin imperial clan who had prevented the soaring serpent from breaking through to become a Tao Lord. They knew exactly how vengeful this God King serpent was. Lord Taoist Chen Yang forced a smile and said in a deep voice, "Fellow Taoist, Soaring Snake's breakthrough should be a joyous occasion. Unfortunately, your subordinate has gone too far. He was the one who killed His Highness Qianzhong. Now, I'm going to take his head back to the Divine Land and give the Divine Lord an explanation. Please do me a favor, fellow Taoist Soaring Snake." As he spoke, Chen Yang continued to walk toward Yi Fei. He believed that Soaring Snake was a smart person. Lu Qianzhong's death had a great impact, and he had to find a scapegoat. Chen Yang couldn't kill the princes of the three major nations, so he could only kill Yi Fei, the person with the least background, and return to the Divine Land. Complete the task. Hearing this, Soaring Snake's reaction was very strange. He first gave Lord Taoist Chen Yang a strange look and then looked at Yi Fei. In front of everyone, Soaring Snake suddenly did something that shocked everyone. He knelt down on one knee and faced Yi Fei respectfully. "Please forgive me for being late, young master." These words caused everyone present to widen their eyes in shock. Even Yi Fei looked at Meng Shi in surprise. He then nodded his head and said, "Get up." Yes. Meng Shi stood up respectfully and even purposely took a few steps back to stand behind Yi Fei. Meng Shi used his actions to express his attitude. Interestingly, the position where the Lord of Heaven Guo was standing was exactly the same as the soaring serpent. Everyone from the Medicine King Manor widened their eyes in disbelief. Even the Medicine King felt a strong sense of unease. A Tao Lord. He actually has a Tao Lord standing behind him. Even Guo Sankai secretly joined him. Who the hell is this kid? The King of Medicine's question was actually the same as everyone else's. Lord Taoist Chen Yang's expression instantly turned uglier than a pig's liver. He had originally thought that Yi Fei was the most insignificant person here, so he had planned to use Yi Fei as a scapegoat. Chen Yang had never expected that it wasn't that Yi Fei didn't have a background, but that the background behind him was too powerful. After all, to have a Tao Lord as a follower at the sovereign realm, Yi Fei at least had a Tao Lord standing behind him. Yi Fei also stared coldly at Lord Taoist Chen Yang. Why? Didn't you want to kill me just now and use me as a scapegoat? I'm sorry, but your plan has failed. If there's nothing else, I'll take my leave. He understood that Soaring Snake's breakthrough must have been part of the Heavenly Tao Tree's plan. After all, to gain a foothold in the Bayou Nation, which was surrounded by wolves, it was impossible to do so without a Tao Lord. Soaring Snake's breakthrough had coincidentally resolved Yi Fei's greatest crisis. Faced with the Tao Lord aura released by Soaring Snake, Chen Yang hesitated. Before he could figure out Yi Fei's identity and background, he still didn't dare to act rashly against Yi Fei. In the end, everyone watched in astonishment as Yi Fei calmly left under the protection of a Tao Lord. Gao Lian's face turned ashen. Guiyun also looked horrified. They would never have imagined that Yi Fei's true identity would be so terrifying and mysterious. Even a Tao Lord is willing to be his subordinate. Could it be that this demon Lord Yi is also someone from a major faction in the Divine Prefecture? Investigate immediately. We must find out. Old man Qingyun's expression was very solemn. He was a cautious person. Before he figured out Yi Fei's true identity, he would not let Clear Cloud Pavilion go. They were on either side. Bai Ling, Xiao Yang and Qin Wuyang's faces were deathly pale. Most of them were injured, while others were angry. Not long after they woke up, they were shocked to find that their spatial belts were gone. It was easy for him to think that Yi Fei had stolen it while they were unconscious. Of course, their guesses were completely wrong. Yi Fei only took Lu Qianzhong's spatial belt and robbed Rizu while he was at it. As for the spatial belts of Bai Lung and the other two, they were not robbed by Yi Fei. Instead, it was the dragon turtle that secretly took them. At this moment, the dragon turtle was in the beast mark space with Xiao Qiao. They were each holding a flower of laws and eating happily. Yi Fei was also very depressed. He was worried outside, but the ones who were enjoying the most were Xiao Qiao and the dragon turtle. However, when he thought about the situation he might face without Xiao Qiao this time, Yi Fei could not help but smile. By the way, Soaring Serpent, Lord of Heaven Gua, thank you so much this time. Yi Fei understood that if it were not for Soaring Serpent and Lord of Heaven Gua, he might really have been killed by Chen Yang as a scapegoat. What are you talking about, young master? We are your servants and should serve you. Young master, please return to the mountain quickly. If Chen Yang and Qin Yun join forces, I will not be a match for them, Soaring Serpent said in a low voice. Yi Fei nodded and simply let Soaring Serpent lead him back to the Black Rock Peak with the speed of a Tao Lord. He saw that the Black Rock Peak was already filled with people. Shang Jing and Tian Fa Quasi-Emperor looked at him nervously. Yi Fei naturally understood their worries and nodded slightly. Then, he instructed Soaring Serpent and Lord of Heaven Gua to guard the peak while he led everyone back to the Grotto Heaven World. The tree men in the Grotto Heaven World quickly transported Yi Fei out of the palace. Squeak! Only when they reached this place did Xiao Qiao happily run out with the dragon tortoise. She also brought the masked woman out. Luluo! My Luluo! Shang Jing's eyes immediately turned red. Qing she must be my granddaughter. Tian Fa Quasi-Emperor also became nervous. In fact, they were not the only ones who were nervous. Yi Fei was also very nervous. In his heart, he actually still hoped that this woman was Zhao Yu. Then, he took out the real token and removed the Divine Lord restriction on it. The Divine Lord restriction on the woman was quickly removed. However, she did not take off the black metal mask on her face. Instead, she looked at Yi Fei and asked a very strange question in a hoarse voice. Who do you want me to be? Whoosh! Shang Jing and Tian Fa Quasi-Emperor stared at Yi Fei with bright eyes. Di Fan and the others also looked at Yi Fei with strange expressions. Yi Fei felt immense pressure. However, when he saw the woman's serious gaze, he knew the problem. Chapter 2172. You should be Lu Qing. Yi Fei tried his best to speak in a calm tone. His guess was well-founded. Zhao Yu had a cold personality and would not make such jokes. Shangluo was also eccentric and would not do such a thing. Therefore, the person who asked him was most likely Lu Qing. Hearing Yi Fei's words, the woman finally took off her mask, revealing a face that everyone was very familiar with. Qing. Seeing that it was indeed Lu Qing, the Sky Fa Quasi-Emperor could not help but cry. Shang Jing sighed, disappointment written all over her face. At this moment, the Grand Dean walked over to comfort her. Don't worry. Since Yi Fei can find Lu Qing, he will definitely find Shangluo in the future. That's true, but the heaven domain is so big. It's very difficult to find someone. Shang Jing sighed. Looking at Lu Qing, Yi Fei was slightly disappointed. However, after hearing Shang Jing's words, his expression quickly became firm. Chief, don't worry. I will definitely find Shangluo. As for Zhao Yu and Wang Bai, I will find them all. The heaven realm is big, but as long as the heaven domain is strong enough, we will definitely be able to do it. Hearing this, Lu Qing looked at Yi Fei with a complicated expression. Suddenly, she said, I might know where Zhao Yu is. What? You know? Yi Fei was a little surprised. Lu Qing nodded and said, After I came to the heaven domain, I appeared in the divine prefecture in a small city belonging to the Wind and Cloud Hall. Bai Yun Divine Lord was in charge of that small city. He discovered me, and not only did he help me remove the seal, but he also took me in as his disciple and taught me the fastest way to break through to the sovereign realm. At that time, I met a good person and a good master. Therefore, I asked him to help me find out the whereabouts of Zhao Yu and Shangluo. However, I never expected that Bai Yun Divine Lord was only using me. His main purpose of going to the divine prefecture was to find someone like me who had no one to rely on but possessed the lightning bloodline. On the surface, he took us in as his disciples and spent a lot of resources to help us break through to the sovereign realm. He wants to use us as tools for Lu Qianzhong to steal the bloodline power. It was at that time that Bai Yun God Lord discovered my identity as someone from the Earth domain. However, when Bai Yun God Lord imprisoned the 8 of us, he accidentally told me that Zhao Yu was currently in the palace of the deity king. It was a very powerful force that even the Wind Cloud Hall couldn't afford to offend. Lu Qing's tone was very calm, but behind that calmness, there was a sense of stubbornness and bitterness. Her words finally gave Yi Fei a glimmer of hope. After all, he finally knew Zhao Yu's whereabouts. The palace of the Divine King, I will remember this place. No matter where Zhao Yu is, I will definitely find her. If possible, Yi Fei couldn't wait to rush to the palace of the Divine King. When she saw that Yi Fei was so nervous about Zhao Yu, Lu Qing's expression couldn't help but turn gloomy. You must be very disappointed now. You risked your life to save me from Lu Qianzhong, but in the end I am not Zhao Yu. It turned out that this was the reason why Lu Qing had asked Yi Fei that question. Otherwise, why was it said that a woman's mind was very complicated? At the very least, Yi Fei couldn't help but feel inexplicably awkward when he heard Lu Qing's words. Seeing Yi Fei's awkwardness, Xia Jun, who was Yi Fei's underling, immediately stepped in and said solemnly, No, Lu Qing, you are wrong. In my big brother's heart, you, Zhao Yu, and Shangluo are all important to him. You are all the most important existences to him. Regardless of which one you are, it is worth it for my big brother to risk his life to find you. Big brother, don't you think so? Upon hearing this, Yi Fei almost vomited blood. He really didn't know whether to nod or not. Lu Qing's face also turned red when she heard this. She subconsciously threw out a bolt of lightning, forgetting that she was now a ruler. Even a light bolt of lightning was enough to strike an earthly venerate like Xia Jun. His hair even turned into an explosive shape. Yi Fei immediately cast a sympathetic look at Xia Jun. This was the consequence of having a big mouth. Fortunately, he didn't say anything. Not only could he not say anything, but Yi Fei also hurriedly found an excuse and walked into the palace. The heavenly Tao tree was already waiting inside. "Senior Heavenly Tao Tree, thank you so much this time." Yi Fei cupped his hands and bowed to the heavenly Tao tree very seriously. This time, it was Xiao Chao who had chased away Rizu. However, it was the heavenly Tao tree that had truly saved his life. If the heavenly Tao tree hadn't given him the heavenly Tao divine liquid, he wouldn't have been able to last until he encountered Rizu. He might have died at Lu Qianzhong's hands. Similarly, if the heavenly Tao tree hadn't allowed Meng Shi to quickly become a Tao Lord, it would have been very difficult for him to escape under Lord Taoist Chen Yang's pursuit. The heavenly Tao tree accepted Yi Fei's gratitude calmly and said with relief, "Yi Fei, you don't have to thank me. After all, you are the spirit master. All the treants and I are your subordinate. As long as you protect the little princess and help us take back the spiritual realm, we will naturally pledge our lives to follow you. Senior, don't worry. Anyone who tries to harm Xiao Chao will have to step over my dead body first." Yi Fei's expression was extremely serious. Sensing his seriousness, the heavenly Tao tree smiled with relief. "I believe that you will definitely do what you say. By the way, how is Rizu's inheritance?" Yi Fei's expression changed. This was also why he was in a hurry to find the heavenly Tao tree. After all, although Xiao Chao had beaten Rizu away, she had also exposed her identity as a spirit immortal. This made Yi Fei very worried. He hurriedly told the heavenly Tao tree everything that had happened in Rizu's tomb. "By the way, I also found 2 unique Fang marks on Rizu's body." Yi Fei nodded and activated a memory sorcery to replay the scene of the ancient golden coffin. The heavenly Tao tree's expression couldn't help but become serious. These 2 Fang marks should be the void serpent's poisonous fangs, and the venom of the void serpent could easily poison a human ancestor realm martial artist to death. Most importantly, this poison can only be cured by the blood of a spirit immortal. "Yi Fei, you have to be careful. Since Rizu has discovered the little princess's identity, he will definitely appear again to steal the little princess's spirit blood." Yi Fei's expression darkened. "If Rizu comes, I won't have any chance of winning. After all, he was only a ruler at the moment, and Rizu was an invincible expert in the Renzu realm. That might not be the case. After all, Rizu's consciousness has already been destroyed, and his main body has been poisoned by the void serpent. Unless Rizu develops a new consciousness, he won't dare to attack you." The heavenly Tao tree shook its head. "But what if Rizu reveals Xiao Chao's existence?" Yi Fei was still worried. Chapter 2173. 3 years. And that's a conservative estimate. After all, Rizu managed to survive the void serpent's venomous fangs for thousands of years. He must have found a way to suppress it. The heavenly Tao tree's expression became even more serious. In its eyes, Yi Fei's fight with Lu Qianzhong and Lord Taoist Chen Yang was just a small skirmish. It was just a small matter. Only the lightning ancestor, a human ancestor, was the real threat. Hearing that Rizu might come for revenge in such a short time, Yi Fei's expression turned even uglier. He suddenly regretted robbing Rizu so thoroughly. One had to know that in the golden coffin, he almost couldn't hold back from stripping off the lightning ancestor's socks and underwear. With such a deep grudge, if the lightning ancestor came to kill him, wouldn't he be slapped to death? Taking a deep breath, Yi Fei forced himself to calm down. He asked in a low voice, "Then how should I deal with Rizu's revenge in 3 years?" "Very simple. You just have to break through to Renzu." The heavenly Tao tree looked at Yi Fei strangely. Yi Fei's face was filled with faint sadness. It would be impressive if an ordinary warrior could break through from early-stage sovereign to late-stage sovereign in 3 years. If a genius martial artist could break through from the sovereign realm to the heavenly monarch realm, it would be amazing. Yi Fei, on the other hand, was about to break through from the sovereign realm to the human ancestor realm. That was a ridiculous cultivation speed. Yi Fei's face turned black instantly. Senior Heavenly Tao Tree, you must be joking with me. We, the Heavenly Tao Tree, never joke. Of course, I know that it's impossible for you to break through to Sovereign in 3 years. But at the very least, you must break through to Lord God. Only then can you control Renzu's weapon and block Rizu's attack. The Heavenly Tao Tree's gaze was very serious. After seeing that the Heavenly Tao Tree was not joking, Yi Fei felt depressed. He took out the Renzu weapon and said, I'm good with swords, not sabers. Do I have to cultivate a saber mystique in the next 3 years? We won't have enough time. The Heavenly Tao Tree suddenly let out a long sigh. Yi Fei, among all the spirit masters in history, you have the weakest realm, the lowest talent, the most average looks, and the most unlucky one. Other warriors can't even provoke a single Renzu in their entire lives, but you went out and provoked one, and even offended him directly. Damn it, I really don't understand why the little princess likes to follow you around, sigh. Yi Fei's face was dark. It wasn't his fault that his looks were average. Besides, people who had been abandoned by the heavens were usually very unlucky. This seemed to be something he was born with. Fortunately, even though the Heavenly Tao Tree was sighing, it quickly thought of a solution to Yi Fei's problem. It roared towards the sky, and a huge response came from the sky. A sun fell directly into the palace. It wasn't a real sun, but a spiritualized heaven and earth cauldron. As it fell, the cauldron turned into a big fat man with a face full of fire and a big belly. Seeing this big fat man, Yi Fei's eyes lit up. He quickly understood the Heavenly Tao Tree's intentions. Senior Cauldron, take a look at this thunder saber. Can you help me refine it into a thunder sword? This way, he would have a Renzu weapon in the form of a sword. As for the indestructible sword token, strictly speaking, it belonged to the 9 Heavens Sword Master. Yi Fei couldn't completely control it. Looking at the human ancestor's weapon that Yi Fei handed over, the red-faced fatty's eyes lit up. He took the human ancestor's weapon and swallowed it. Boom! As if sensing danger, endless lightning suddenly erupted from the thunder saber in an attempt to explode the big fat man's belly. However, the big fat man transformed from the heaven and earth cauldron immediately used its hands like hammers and smashed its own belly repeatedly. It was as if someone was using a hammer to smash a piece of metal. It was filled with an invisible force. Then, the heaven and earth cauldron extended 3 fingers. 3 years? Yi Fei asked. Although the heaven and earth cauldron had spiritualized, it didn't like to speak. When it saw Yi Fei, it understood what he meant. It immediately grinned, and its huge body soared into the sky. It turned into a sun again, and charged into the void. However, Yi Fei could hear the sound of metal being hammered in the void from time to time. Obviously, the heaven and earth cauldron was refining the Renzu weapon with all its might. It was also transforming the thunder saber into a thunder sword suitable for Yi Fei. Now that I have the Renzu weapon, it's time for me to make the best use of my time and cultivate diligently. It was impossible for him to break through to the Renzu realm in 3 years. However, he must reach the divine sovereign realm. A hint of determination flashed across Yi Fei's eyes. After dealing with Rizu, he walked out of the palace. However, he was surprised to see Xiao Qiao and the dragon turtle waiting outside for him. When he saw Yi Fei, Xiao Qiao naturally opened his arms happily and made a gesture of wanting to be hugged and raised high. However, the dragon turtle was afraid that Yi Fei would forget something and hurriedly put up a small wooden tablet. The tablet was densely carved with the numbers recorded by the dragon turtle. Yi Fei finally remembered that he seemed to have promised Xiao Qiao that he would reward him with a certain number of mystic veins if he beat up Rizu several times. Yi Fei instantly picked up the small wooden tablet and looked at it. Then, his face turned green. Big Black, are you sure you didn't count wrongly? I remember that Xiao Qiao didn't hit Rizu many times. How did he hit him more than 2,000 times in such a short time? Yi Fei was very shocked. Was it because Rizu was too tough, or was it because Xiao Chao's attack speed was too fast? Yi Fei vaguely felt that something was wrong. However, he saw the dragon turtle looking at him with a pitiful, aggrieved, and hurt expression. Yi Fei was too embarrassed to go back on his word. Forget it. 2000 it is. I haven't checked Lu Qianzhong's space belt yet. Oh right, there's still that crystal's love. Yi Fei suddenly remembered the space belt that he robbed from Rizu. That space belt actually had a name. This piqued Yi Fei's interest. Hence, Yi Fei excitedly brought Xiao Chao and the dragon turtle back to his residence, and took out the two space belt. Lu Qianzhong's space belt didn't need to be mentioned. As the son of a divine lord and divine lord Bai Yun was the lord of a city, he was naturally very rich. In this space belt, Yi Fei not only found a large number of high-level spiritual weapons and elixirs, but he also found at least 5,000 mystic veins. This level of wealth shocked Yi Fei. After all, the space belts of Bai Lung and the other two were looted by the dragon turtle, but they only found slightly more than 1,000 mystic veins. This made Yi Fei even more interested in the crystal's love. The treasure of a divine lord's son is already so precious. Rizu's treasure must be even more precious. Swoosh. Chapter 2174. What's recorded on this golden page is the golden body of laws, the cultivation technique for the Lord of Heaven realm. Yi Fei held the page in shock. The golden body of laws that Dutian, earthly sovereign, left for him wasn't complete. It was only a cultivation technique that could be cultivated to the sovereign realm. However, this cultivation technique was obtained by Dutian, earthly sovereign, by chance. As for the remaining cultivation technique, Yi Fei had to find it himself. It was just that the heaven realm was incomparably vast, and finding an incomplete cultivation technique was undoubtedly like finding a needle in a haystack. However, he did not expect that the lightning ancestor actually had a law golden body heavenly monarch realm cultivation technique in his hands. Moreover, this was the complete Lord of Heaven realm cultivation technique. With this cultivation technique, not only could he cultivate stronger nomological abilities, he could also rely on this ability to step into the Lord of Heaven realm. As expected of the path of despair, it can actually completely merge the ability and cultivation technique. I've cultivated the third level of the golden body of laws, which is equivalent to stepping into the Lord of Heaven realm. Yi Fei's eyes flashed with excitement. Soon, he forgot everything and focused on cultivating. Then, he saw Yi Fei start cultivating crazily again. Xiao Chao and the dragon turtle were speechless. Fortunately, Yi Fei left behind a large number of Xian veins. At this moment, the dragon turtle started to use the power of these Xian veins to continue refining the poisonous dragon pearl in its body. After all, that dragon pearl belonged to the sovereign realm poison dragon. If the dragon turtle completely refined it, it could also reach the sovereign realm. Xiao Chao was very interested in the flowers of law. While Yi Fei and the dragon turtle were cultivating, Xiao Chao took out the flowers of law and ate them bite by bite as if they were delicious snack. Xiao Chao instantly felt very happy. However, it was different from Yi Fei's great harvest. The entire Qingyun Pavilion and the Medicine King Manor were in a gloomy mood. Lu Qianzhong was dead and Rizu seemed to have come back from the dead and left the grotto heaven. No matter which one it was a huge matter. It was also a crisis that the Medicine King and Old Man Qingyun couldn't bear. At this moment, they gathered together to discuss this matter. What should we do? Baiyun Immortal Emperor will definitely be furious with Lu Qianzhong's death. We can't afford it. Old Man Qingyun said worriedly. As the only Dao monarch in the Baiyun nation, Old Man Qingyun did not replace him and establish his own nation. Other than the fact that he could not afford to offend Lu Baiyun, a divine monarch, there was another reason: the Wind Cloud Hall. At the same time, the entire Qing province belonged to the Wind Cloud Hall's sphere of influence. As long as the Wind Cloud Hall didn't acknowledge him, old man Qingyun wouldn't dare to establish his own kingdom in Qing province. Hearing this, the king of medicine's face turned even uglier. Taoist Lord Qinyang has returned to the Divine Land and brought back the news of Lu Qianzhong's death. Since the news can't be concealed, and we can't find a scapegoat to appease the Divine Lord's anger, then we can only try our best to make the Grotto Heaven World and Yi Fei. We've investigated the matter thoroughly. Old man Qingyun's expression was solemn. We've already investigated Yi Fei's matter. It's said that when he first entered the Baiyu Nation, he was ambushed by the Blood Sky Wolf. At that time, he said that he came from the Sword Palace. I just don't know what kind of power the Sword Palace belongs to in the Divine Land. The Green Cloud Pavilion was extremely powerful and had been in control of the Baiyu Nation for many years. Following Old Man Qingyun's orders, a few of the Blood Wolf gang members managed to slip through the net and spread the news that Yi Fei was from the Sword Palace. This made the King of Medicine's expression change drastically. He didn't dare to delay and quickly asked Taoist Lord Qinyang to bring the news of Yi Fei back to the Divine Land before Taoist Lord Qinyang set off. He also wanted to verify the authenticity of Yi Fei's identity as a disciple of the Sword Palace. At this moment, the flag that he had casually raised might have alarmed the real Sword Palace. After painstakingly cultivating in seclusion in his room for a month, Yi Fei finally completely deciphered the mysterious words on the golden page. He also obtained the Path of Despair and the cultivation method of the Lord of Heaven. Then, Yi Fei sucked in a deep breath of cold air. The third level of the golden body of laws is too terrifying. Just forming the golden body alone requires at least 100,000 Xian veins. Such a terrifying number of Xian veins isn't something that can be provided by a single power. It requires the power of a nation to be able to provide this. In the entire Baiyu Nation, only the Medicine Manor and the Qingyun Pavilion can provide this amount of Xian veins. Doesn't that mean that unless I destroy the Medicine Manor or the Qingyun Pavilion, I won't be able to gather enough Xian veins to advance to the Lord of Heaven realm? Of course, Yi Fei could also give up on the Path of Despair and cultivate other technique. He could also break through to the Lord of Heaven realm and save a lot of resources. However, after experiencing the power of the Path of Despair, Yi Fei no longer cared about the ordinary Lord of Heaven techniques. Since I can cultivate the strongest technique in the Sovereign realm, then I will cultivate the strongest technique in the Lord of Heaven realm. Not only that, I must find the other techniques of the Path of Despair. A hint of determination flashed across Yi Fei's eyes. Then, he continued to look through the treasures in the Crystal of Love, Rizu's collection. In the end, he was shocked when he saw it. Not only was there a golden page in the Crystal of Love, but there was also a huge amount of Xian veins collected by Rizu. There were a total of 50,000 Xian veins. This was already half of the resources needed to break through to the third level of the golden body of laws. Other than the profound veins, Yi Fei also discovered a very strange stone door. On the stone door, there were countless divine runes carved into it. There were at least several hundred of them. Yi Fei was incomparably shocked when he saw them. Several hundred divine runes. What exactly is this stone door? It can actually be enchanted several hundred times. Little grass, do you recognize it? Xiao Chao glanced at the stone door and found that it was neither beautiful nor shiny. She immediately lost interest in it and continued to eat the flower of law happily. Seeing that Xiao Chao didn't know what it was, Yi Fei was even more curious. It seems that I can only ask the heavenly Tao tree about this. After all, the heavenly Tao tree was not only an elder of the spiritual realm, but it also had a long lifespan. The heavenly Tao tree definitely knew what Xiao Chao didn't know. Soon, Yi Fei arrived at the palace where the heavenly Tao tree was. At this time, the heavenly Tao tree was teaching a group of spiritual beings cultivation technique. When it saw Yi Fei, it couldn't help but feel a little strange. However, when it saw the stone door that Yi Fei was carrying, the heavenly Tao tree was shocked. This is the spiritual immortal door. Yi Fei, where did you get it? From Rizu's space belt. Oh right, is this stone door a treasure of the spiritual immortal clan? Yi Fei asked curiously. The heavenly Tao tree shook its head. Yes and no. This stone door was refined by the spiritual immortal clan. It's a special teleportation gate. Once you open this gate, you can directly enter the divine prefecture from Qingzhou, saving you a lot of distance. Moreover, only the major forces of the divine prefecture have such a gate. Strange this lay. How can Zhu have a teleportation gate that only the major forces have? I remember that the spiritual realm has only refined less than 20 of these gates, and less than 10 have been leaked. The heavenly Tao tree fell into deep thought. Chapter 2175. The first thing Yi Fei did when he returned to his room was to take out the stone gate and study it carefully. After the heavenly Tao tree's guidance, he already knew that to activate this teleportation gate, besides needing a large number of mystic veins, he also needed to determine the location of the teleportation gate. Otherwise, if he was teleported aimlessly, it would be fine if he was teleported to a safe place. If he was as unlucky as the land and teleported directly to the Tyrannosaurus King's nose, Yi Fei could not guarantee that he would survive. Fortunately, this was not a problem for him. Since Rizu had the stone gate, he had prepared so many mystic veins in preparation for entering the divine prefecture. Inside the stone gate, Yi Fei quickly discovered a star map. On the star map, there were many red dots. Yi Fei knew that these red dots were marked by Rizu in various directions to enter the divine prefecture. These directions were all determined by the stars in the sky. In this way, as long as he opened the gate and communicated with the stars in the sky, these stars would automatically guide him to the location marked on the star map. However, these dots on the star map vary in size and color. Rizu even crossed out some places. It seems that even Renzu does not dare to approach forbidden areas. If I were to teleport there rashly, I wouldn't even know how I died. Yi Fei stared at the star map again and again. Although he did not understand why Rizu marked this star map, he still decided to use this gate to enter the divine prefecture to take a look. After all, whether it was the Bayou Nation or the Green Prefecture, they were both too small and lacking in resources. Why did the Green Prefecture only have Tao Lords and not Godly Lords? It was because the Green Prefecture had too few resources and it was difficult to produce Godly Lord. Even Rizu had only returned to the Green Prefecture after breaking through to Renzu in the Divine Prefecture. More importantly, Zhao Yu was currently in the palace of the Divine Prefecture's King of Gods. Understanding this, Yi Fei felt that he had sufficient reason to enter the Divine Prefecture. In the end, he even thought of a method that wasn't really a method. Since he couldn't determine the meaning of Rizu's star map, he could determine the level of strength of this place by using the number of profound veins consumed to open the realm entrance. For example, if he had to exhaust 10,000 profound veins, he definitely couldn't go. Firstly, it was too dangerous. Secondly, it would exhaust too many profound veins. Even Yi Fei felt the pinch. It's best if it's the kind that only requires a few hundred profound veins to be able to teleport over. Yi Fei thought to himself, and then began to try one direction after another. About a day passed like this. Finally, Yi Fei found a slightly suitable location. The amount of profound veins used to teleport to this location was not too much, not too little. It was exactly 1,000 profound veins. Yi Fei opened the gate and walked in directly. This time, he did not bring the dragon turtle and Xiao Qiao with him. After all, it was his first time entering the divine continent. He was still a little uncertain. Boom! The powerful energy formed by the 1,000 profound veins instantly activated the hundreds of divine patterns on the stone door. These divine patterns arranged themselves to form a strange gate. Yi Fei stepped into this gate. Yi Fei had already entered a whole new world. This world was not the divine continent that Yi Fei had imagined. This was because there was no sun, moon, or stars in the sky above his head. Below his feet was a continuous chain of mountains. The mountains were filled with an austere aura. However, this aura did not seem to belong to the vicious beast. Instead, it was a very strange power. Yi Fei was vaguely familiar with this power. Just as he was thinking, a strong wave of profound energy suddenly erupted from the mountain range in the distance. Then, a resplendent wheel of destiny lit up the sky. Yi Fei clearly saw 12 rings of light on that wheel of destiny. It was actually 12 heavenly wheels of destiny. An ordinary dominator's wheel of destiny could reach the limit of 9 levels. They could become a genius expert in a certain region. However, in the divine continent, martial arts flourished even more. Therefore, the geniuses of the divine continent could increase their heavenly wheels by 3 levels. This was equivalent to the dominator realm. It was 1 level higher than an ordinary warrior. It was enough to be invincible in the same realm. When he saw the 12 heavenly wheels of destiny, Yi Fei's heart skipped a beat. He immediately rushed towards the mountain range. At this moment, there were more than 20 young warriors from the divine continent standing in the mountain range. Their auras were very powerful. They were also wearing clothes with special divine patterns. Through these clothes, one could tell which force they were from. When they saw Yi Fei rushing over, they were a little surprised. How strange! Didn't they say that there would only be a few people from our forces in this trial? Where did that guy come from? Which force does he belong to? The leader was a very stern young man. When he saw Yi Fei appear, his eyes were like 2 sharp blades that pierced through Yi Fei's body and into Yi Fei's soul. He was also the one who had released the 12 heavenly wheels of destiny. At the feet of the stern young man lay a dead vicious beast. However, those vicious beasts did not have blood. Instead, they exuded a powerful nomological aura. Yi Fei was shocked. Vicious beasts evolved from nomological laws? They are very similar to the Maxim Flower Kings in the Rizu Void. No wonder I found them familiar. He was very excited. One had to know that the Maxim Flower Kings could increase the level of his wheel of destiny. These nomological vicious beasts were definitely more precious than the Maxim Flower Kings. Stop right there. I'm asking you a question. I've seen all the forces in the city of divine monarchs, but I don't think I've seen anyone dressed like you. Another woman in embroidered clothes with delicate features looked at Yi Fei with suspicion. Yi Fei became even more excited when he heard this. City of divine monarchs? Then do you know the palace of divine monarchs? We are from the palace of divine monarchs. Who are you? Report your identity. Only the top 10 factions of the divine continent can enter Supreme Emperor Heaven. How did you get in? Beside the woman stood 3 men in white robes and purple sashes. They looked at Yi Fei warily. Yi Fei came to his senses. He had been too excited and had aroused the suspicions of these people. Yi Fei immediately revealed an honest and simple smile. It was a very clean and infectious smile. He scratched his head and said, I don't know how I got in either. I found a stone door in my house and opened it. That's how I got in. Yi Fei's words were half true and half false. At the same time, his heart stirred. He took out the black iron heavy sword and rested it on his shoulder. He looked like an inexperienced rookie. By the way, where is this place? How should I address my senior brothers and sisters? You use a sword. Could you be from the Sword Palace? When the woman saw Yi Fei take out his heavy sword, her hostility weakened significantly. She even seemed to be a little friendly. Instead, it was the stern-looking youth who snorted coldly. He did not seem to be interested in the Sword Palace. Chapter 2176. Perhaps she was infected by Yi Fei's honest smile, but the girl quickly let down her guard and hostility. She explained with a smile, Since you are from the Sword Palace, you can follow behind me. All right. Thank you, senior sister. The girl was overjoyed when she heard Yi Fei call her senior sister. The more she looked at Yi Fei, the more pleasing she found him. She smiled and said, "That's right. Our godly monarch palace and the sword palace have always had a good relationship. Since you call me senior sister, I will definitely take good care of you. If you encounter any demonic beasts, stay behind me." The girl was very confident. This might have something to do with the fact that she was from the godly monarch palace. However, when the stern-faced youth heard that the girl wanted to bring Yi Fei along, a look of displeasure flashed across his face. However, he did not say anything. After all, the Sword Palace was one of the major factions in the Divine Prefecture. Naturally, they had the qualifications to enter Supreme Emperor Heaven. While Yi Fei and the girl were talking, the stern-faced youth had already refined and absorbed the demonic beasts that had been killed. As he absorbed the demonic beasts, a strange law suddenly erupted from the youth's body. It was an aura. It's the Azure Wings Law. It focuses on speed. Congratulations, senior brother Yang Ming. The youths clustered around the stern young man all congratulated him, causing the stern young man to smile. Although the Azure Wing Law is rare, it's a pity that it's not an offensive law. In the Supreme Emperor Heaven, we are the most important. In our Supreme Emperor Heaven, we still need to find the strongest offensive law. Senior brother Yang Ming, don't worry. Supreme Emperor Heaven doesn't have many things, but there are a lot of demonic beasts with laws. As long as we are willing, we will definitely be able to find that berserk demon bear. The youths flattered him again. It was obvious that the stern-faced youth had a very high status among this group of people. The stern-faced youth nodded coldly and continued walking towards the depths of the mountain range. Yi Fei also carried his heavy sword and followed behind the girl. After some conversation, he already knew that the girl's name was Ziyu. She was the daughter of an elder from the godly monarch palace. Her main goal in entering Supreme Emperor Heaven was the same as the stern youth's, to find a suitable law for herself. This shocked Yi Fei greatly. It had to be known that in Azure Province, if a warrior wanted to improve their nomological understanding, they had to enter the nomological world with their own consciousness to comprehend it. It was unknown when they would be able to do so, but this group of geniuses from the Divine Prefecture was different. It seemed like they only needed to hunt Law Fey beasts here to improve their nomological understanding. He could directly obtain the corresponding nomological laws. No wonder the warriors of Qingzhou yearn for the Divine Land. I didn't expect there to be such a strange place in the Divine Land. Yi Fei thought to himself. While following Ziyu, he asked curiously, "By the way, senior sister Ziyu, what kind of place is the Supreme Emperor Sky? How did these nomological demonic beasts appear?" "Oh my God, you don't even know this?" Ziyu made an exaggerated expression, but on account of Yi Fei calling her senior sister, Ziyu patiently explained, "Law Fei beasts are demonic beasts condensed from nomological laws. As for the Supreme Emperor Heaven, it's a place where Law Fei beasts reside. However, only our 10 great factions can enter such a heaven. This is also the reason why countless geniuses are racking their brains to join our 10 great factions. By the way, you are still a rookie. When you see a Law Fei beast, you must not rush over. Although the Law Fei beasts of Supreme Emperor Heaven are all at the sovereign realm, the stronger the nomological laws they possess, the stronger the offensive power of the Law Fei beast. This is especially true for the berserk demon bear that Yang Ming wants to capture. It has the berserk law of the 10 great forces, and its combat power is even more terrifying. Ziyu explained in detail, completely treating Yi Fei as a rookie. Yi Fei also took the opportunity to ask for advice. He asked about many things that he didn't understand, especially the origin of Supreme Emperor Heaven. It was rare for someone to ask her for advice, so Ziyu was addicted to being a senior sister and actually told him everything she knew. Soon Yi Fei learned that there weren't only grotto heavens in the divine continent, but also all heavens. If grotto heavens were compared to cities, then all heavens were countries. Moreover, unlike grotto heavens that were naturally formed, all heavens were created by existences above Renzu. These existences were ancient sovereigns. For example, Supreme Emperor Heaven was created by an ancient sovereign realm powerhouse called Emperor Tai. In this all-heavens world, due to the ancient sovereign's laws, countless law fey beasts had evolved. As long as a cultivator defeated these fey beasts, they would be able to obtain the corresponding laws of the fey beast. However, all heavens like this were usually firmly controlled by the 10 great factions. Outsiders were simply unable to enter. However, Yi Fei had used the immortal spirit gate left behind by Rizu to teleport in. This made Yi Fei suspect that Rizu also came from one of the 10 great factions. However, if Rizu came from one of the 10 great factions, why didn't he stay in the Divine Continent? Why did he run to Qing Prefecture and nearly die there? With this in mind, Yi Fei couldn't help but become even more careful. He silently followed behind Purple Moon, not daring to say anything else lest he gave himself away. During this time, Yang Ming and the others in front encountered law fey beasts a few more times. A few youths took action and killed these law fey beasts, refining them into their own laws. As the laws were refined, the youth's strength increased to a certain extent. Yi Fei watched with envy. He also wanted to take action, but unfortunately, there were too many people in front of him. As soon as the law fey beasts appeared, they were reserved in advance, not giving Yi Fei a chance to intervene. Brother Yi, we have a lot of people on our side. We're all attacking according to the order of arrival. You can take action after we're done. Please bear with us. Beside Purple Moon, a white-robed disciple with a purple sash explained with a smile. However, even though he was explaining, Yi Fei clearly felt that this person was mocking him. This person was clearly bullying him because he was inexperienced. However, Yi Fei didn't refute. He continued to follow behind the group in a very low-key manner. As they went deeper and deeper, the law fey beasts they encountered became stronger and stronger. Even Purple Moon stopped chatting with Yi Fei. Instead, she observed the surrounding environment very seriously. They continued to move forward for a while. All of a sudden, Yi Fei sensed an extremely violent aura approaching rapidly. Purple Moon's expression changed as well. Oh no, this violent aura. It might be the wild demon bear. Everyone, be careful. Humph, it's just a wild demon bear. It came at the right time. This demon bear is mine. Please wait for a moment. I'll be right back. Sensing the aura of the demon bear, Yangming's cold expression became even colder. In an instant, he activated his 12 fate wheels and rushed forward like a burning god of war. Chapter 2177. Boom. While Yi Fei and Ziyu were talking, Yang Ming and the berserk demon bear were fighting in the mountain range ahead. The demon bear's strength was terrifying. It was clearly only a ruler, but the power it erupted with made many of the Lord of Heaven's scalps go numb. Only then did Yi Fei know that although Supreme Emperor Heaven seemed like a paradise, it was actually a dangerous place. If they were careless, the martialists who came in to hunt law demonic beasts might end up being hunted down by the demonic beasts instead. This was exactly the case. Yang Ming, who came from the Yin Yang Palace, was very powerful. The 12 fate heavenly wheels made the divine ability he used even more dazzling. Unfortunately, whether it was Yang Ming or Ziyu, they had underestimated the power and cunning of this bear of laws. The bear let out a loud roar, and countless powerful beasts of laws rushed out from the surrounding mountains. These demonic beasts exuded a fiendish aura as they charged at the group. Ziyu's face turned pale. So many law demonic beasts? Not good. We've been ambushed. Roar, roar. The berserk demon bear's proud roar came from afar. Just like the people from the top 10 factions who had entered Supreme Emperor Heaven to hunt them down, the law demonic beasts were also constantly looking for opportunities to hunt down the martialists who had entered Supreme Emperor Heaven. This was especially true for law demonic beasts like the Berserk Demon Bear. They didn't just possess instincts, they also had a certain level of intelligence. However, the one leading these demonic beasts to surround them wasn't the Berserk Demon Bear, but another even more terrifying law demonic beast. This demonic beast's form was very strange. It was actually a divine sword with a demonic eye in the middle. Ziyu couldn't help gasping when she saw this demonic beast. It's the 9th-ranked law demonic beast in Supreme Emperor Heaven, the Supreme Evil Sword. The two white-clothed youths beside Ziyu trembled. Yi Fei asked in surprise, "Is the Supreme Evil Sword very powerful?" "Powerful, of course it's powerful. The Berserk Demon Bear is only ranked 25th among the law demonic beasts in Supreme Emperor Heaven, but the Supreme Evil Sword is ranked 9th. Not good. The Supreme Evil Sword is coming for us." Clang! Between heaven and earth, a sonorous sword cry suddenly resounded. Then, endless sword chi whistled like a long river, cutting the mountain peak in half, and charged towards Ziyu. Yi Fei could vaguely see a hint of mockery and indifference in the evil eye of the evil sovereign sword. It seemed to be mocking these puny humans for daring to covet their law beasts. This wasn't a hunt at all, but a crushing. The swarm of law Fei charging from all directions proved this point. Although those who could enter the Supreme Emperor Heaven were definitely outstanding figures among the top 10 forces, it was a pity that they were facing extremely powerful demonic beasts of laws. Demonic beasts that could survive in the depths of the Supreme Emperor Heaven were definitely unrivaled existences in the sovereign realm. Faced with the sudden attack of dozens of demonic beasts, not only did Yang Ming of the Yin Yang Palace turn pale, but the other young warriors were also flustered. "Oh no, we've been ambushed. Young Master Yang Ming, Miss Ziyu, what should we do?" There were already people who couldn't withstand the attacks of the demonic beasts. Ziyu's face paled, but then she said resolutely, "Retreat immediately. We'll split up and break out of the encirclement." If they stayed together, they would only be completely surrounded. If they split up and fled, they would be able to pull apart the formation of the demonic beast. However, this way, there would be bound to be weak people who wouldn't be able to get support from others and would die. Yi Fei shook his head. "Ziyu, is this really okay? If we split up, many people will die here. We can't care so much. Yang Ming will definitely be able to break out. As for the others, they can only pray for their own good luck." The two white-clothed youths glanced at Yi Fei with pity. Clearly, when they said, "pray for their own good luck," they also included Yi Fei. As they spoke, they turned and ran. However, Ziyu was a little hesitant. She hurriedly said, "You can follow us." "It's too late. The evil sovereign sword is already rushing towards you." Boom! Just as Yi Fei finished speaking, a terrifying evil sword light slashed down like a river of stars. Even though Ziyu and the two white-clothed youths tried their best to block it, it was a pity that they were too weak against the evil sovereign sword, which was ranked 9th in the Supreme Emperor Heaven. The terrifying sword light swept across, and the two white-clothed youths screamed miserably as they were sent flying. Their chests were slashed with bloody sword scars. Even though Ziyu had mustered up her courage and used her strongest ability, the evil sovereign sword's heavy body still shattered her ability and directly tore her body apart. Ziyu's face instantly turned pale. It was as if she had never dreamed that she would die in the Supreme Emperor Heaven. Then, she saw a tall figure blocking in front of her. He used a heavy sword and clashed with the evil sovereign sword. Boom! The collision of swords was always the most terrifying and violent collision. Yi Fei brandished his heavy sword. His terrifying divine power was like a heavy mountain as he smashed the evil sovereign sword back. At the same time, Yi Fei's body was pushed back a few steps by the evil sovereign sword, leaving deep footprints on the ground. However, before Yi Fei could stabilize his body, he suddenly felt a soft touch on his back. It was as if there was a ball of cotton pressing against him. Ah! Ziyu finally woke up from the shock of Yi Fei's attack. She had been too shocked and her body had collided with Yi Fei's back. She couldn't help but blush as she quickly retreated. Only now did Yi Fei realize how inconvenient it was to not have Xiao Chao by his side. He had accidentally collided with Ziyu. Roar! His sword, which he was confident in, had been pushed back by a puny human with a heavy sword. The evil sovereign sword's evil eyes suddenly flashed with shocking anger and boiling, killing intent. Without a sound, an even more terrifying sword gleam tore towards Yi Fei. That sword gleam was incomparably terrifying. However, Yi Fei seemed to see an evil eye staring at him unblinkingly, as if it wanted to see through all his flaws and see through all his illusions. Ziyu didn't have time to pursue Yi Fei's offense. She hurriedly retreated and said, "Yi Fei, hurry up and retreat. We are not a match for the evil sovereign sword with just our numbers. Kill." What answered her was Yi Fei's surging sword gleam and invincible battle intent. If he had faced other nomological demonic beasts, he might have retreated. However, it was different this time. He was facing the evil sovereign sword, a unique demonic beast that represented the nomological laws of the sword. As a swordsman, Yi Fei didn't have the second-level nomological laws of the sword. Although he didn't say anything, he was actually disappointed. At this moment, the appearance of the evil sovereign sword had finally made Yi Fei's disappointed spirit completely excited. Chapter 2178. Yi Fei's eyes flashed with determination as he swung his heavy sword at the evil emperor's sword with an even greater force. His actions had undoubtedly enraged the evil emperor's sword. For a demonic beast that was ranked 9th in the Supreme Emperor Heaven, it didn't just possess strength. It was so simple, and it also had an extremely powerful consciousness. Boom! The evil emperor's sword cry was even more terrifying. Following the sword cry, it was as if a divine sword had appeared between heaven and earth as it slashed at Yi Fei. Yi Fei raised his sword and slashed forward. He felt as if he wasn't slashing at the evil emperor's sword, but the heaven and earth itself. At the same time, a terrifying suction force was emitted from the evil emperor's sword. In the middle of the huge divine sword, a terrifying evil eye suddenly appeared, staring at Yi Fei with incomparable evil charm. Looking at this evil eye, Yi Fei felt that his entire consciousness, his entire soul, was about to be sucked into that strange eye vortex. Ziyu couldn't help but shout anxiously, "Be careful! That's the evil emperor sword's evil sword eye. Don't look at that eye." It's too late. He doesn't even know what the evil emperor sword is, and he dares to charge at it. He's clearly courting death. "Miss Ziyu, let's take this opportunity to escape while he's distracted by the evil emperor sword." At this moment, the two injured men in white rushed over. From their point of view, Yi Fei didn't know how to escape when facing the evil emperor sword. Instead, he dared to charge at Yi Fei. He was basically a dead man. However, it was fine if Yi Fei died, but nothing could happen to Ziyu. Otherwise, they wouldn't be able to answer to Elder Z of the Divine King Palace. They immediately pulled Ziyu away. Ziyu's footsteps subconsciously followed them. Clearly, Ziyu didn't think highly of Yi Fei's battle with the evil emperor sword. However, Yi Fei had just saved her. Seeing that Yi Fei's soul was about to be sucked away by the evil emperor sword, Ziyu was still a little hesitant. She didn't know whether it was right or wrong to leave now. "Golden body of laws, open!" Yi Fei roared. This evil emperor sword was definitely the strongest opponent he had ever faced in the sovereign realm. Yi Fei even felt like he was facing the Lord of Heaven. However, he still did not back down. The black iron heavy sword in Yi Fei's hand became even heavier. At the same time, a violent purple-gold flame burned on his body like a torch, trying to block the evil eye attack of the evil Emperor's sword. Clang! Another beam of sword light cut through the stars. Disdain and coldness flashed across the evil eyes of the evil Emperor's sword. Many people had tried to take advantage of it in the past, but in the end those insignificant people had all died. And this human before it would be the same. The golden body of laws could not withstand the gaze of the evil eye. Yi Fei soon felt his consciousness and soul leaving his body bit by bit, as if they were about to enter the evil eye. At this moment, the evil Emperor's sword seemed to have felt the strength of Yi Fei's consciousness and soul. The huge body of the evil Emperor's sword trembled in excitement. It could feel that as long as it absorbed Yi Fei's consciousness and soul, it might be able to break free from the golden body of laws and transform into a true demonic beast. Then, it would be able to leave this world that imprisoned them. These emotions were clearly transmitted to Yi Fei's heart through the evil eye. Yi Fei's expression became extremely serious. He knew that he had to use his trump card. Under the circumstances where the golden body of laws was ineffective, he could only use the undying sword soul. I don't know if the undying sword soul can suppress this terrifying evil eye. Undying sword soul, absorb! Yi Fei roared in his heart. The undying sword soul in his body awakened once again. With Yi Fei as the center, it formed a huge vortex that resisted the evil Emperor's sword's evil eye. The evil Emperor's sword immediately sensed an extremely dangerous aura from Yi Fei's body. The evil Emperor's sword actually soared into the sky and decisively gave up on devouring Yi Fei's consciousness and soul. Yi Fei's eyes lit up when he saw this. He knew that he had made the right bet. Although the evil Emperor's sword was very powerful, it was not a true demonic beast. Like the Maxim Flower Kings, it was only a manifestation of the laws that had gained sentience. Yi Fei had the experience of suppressing the Maxim Flower Kings. Now, he naturally had the upper hand against these nomological demonic beasts. Boom! The purplish gold light on his body became even more dazzling, as if a purplish gold star was burning. At the same time, a mysterious black divine sword appeared in Yi Fei's hand under the cover of the purplish gold light. This divine sword was the Undying Sword token. Even though he could not fully control this Renzu weapon, as long as he activated the Undying Sword soul within it, the Undying Sword token would still be able to unleash a terrifying power. Amidst the purplish gold light that filled the sky, Yi Fei raised his sword again, forming a black Undying Sword radiance. Suddenly, his sword pierced through the evil Emperor's sword's most terrifying evil eye. Roar! The evil Emperor's sword immediately let out a terrifying roar. Endless negative energy was released from the evil eye, as if it wanted to swallow Yi Fei whole. However, the energy released by the evil eye was strong, but the energy absorbed by the Undying Sword soul was even stronger. Sensing the law energy released by the evil Emperor's sword, the Undying Sword soul released a formless suction force. Not only did it absorb all the negative energy released by the evil eye, it even pierced the evil Emperor's sword. With a loud bang, the evil Emperor's sword exploded. The evil Emperor's sword, which had lost its body, quickly turned from a heavy sword into a sword law that emitted a demonic aura. Yi Fei hurriedly withdrew his Undying Sword soul. Amidst the purplish gold light that filled the sky, he grabbed this powerful sword law in his hand. The two white-robed men who were still holding on to Ziyu and trying their best to persuade her to abandon Yi Fei and escape were extremely shocked. Ziyu's eyes were wide open and her mouth was agape. She did not expect that the rookie from the Sword Palace, who followed behind her and called her senior sister, would be such a powerful man. Suddenly, Ziyu's face flushed red. She thought of the scene when she had collided with Yi Fei. She did not think much of it, but now that she thought about it, the way Yi Fei had stood in front of her without a care for his own safety was actually quite handsome. Could it be that he likes me too? Ziyu said subconsciously. Her words caused the faces of the two white-robed men behind her to turn the color of pig liver. What made them even more depressed was that after Yi Fei had defeated the evil Emperor Sword, the nomological demonic beasts that had been under the evil Emperor Sword's control had suddenly fled, as if they had been greatly agitated. What's going on? The evil Emperor Sword was actually defeated. The other nomological demonic beasts have also fled. Quick, look. The berserk demon bear that rumor has it that it will never stop fighting has also fled. Chapter 2179. Who didn't know that Yangming's main goal in entering Supreme Emperor Heaven was to capture the berserk demon bear and obtain the law of berserk to cultivate one of the Yin-Yang Palace's powerful divine arts. In the end, due to Yi Fei's sudden killing of the evil Emperor Sword, the berserk demon bear had fled in fright. The berserk demon bear might be big, but once it went berserk, its speed would increase exponentially. Even Yang Ming, who had obtained the Green Wings Law, could not catch up to it. How could Yang Ming not be angry? Ziyu also curiously rushed to Yi Fei's side. Seeing that Yi Fei was unharmed, she could not help but be even more shocked. Yi Fei, how did you do it? She could sense that Yi Fei's realm was not as high as hers. He had probably just comprehended 4 laws and reached the peak of the early-stage ruler realm. How could such strength defeat the 9th-ranked evil Emperor Sword so easily? There were also those law demonic beasts that had fled in fright. This made Ziyu feel that Yi Fei was even more mysterious. Regarding this, Yi Fei felt very helpless. It was said that demonic beasts had the sharpest senses, and law demonic beasts were even more so. Although he had used the light of his golden body of laws to conceal the undying sword soul, he could hide it from Ziyu and the others. However, he could not hide it from those law demonic beasts. Needless to say, the berserk demon bear must have been frightened by the undying sword soul's aura. However, Yi Fei could not say this out loud. He could only reveal a simple and honest smile again. Actually, I realized that the evil Emperor Sword's strongest evil eye is its greatest weakness. As long as I destroy that evil eye, the evil Emperor Sword will naturally be defeated. Yi Fei's reason seemed very sufficient. The simple smile of an honest person was also very infectious. At the very least, Ziyu, who had never defeated the evil Emperor Sword, subconsciously believed Yi Fei's words. Since Ziyu believed him, the others naturally had nothing to say. Although the 9th-ranked evil Emperor Sword was very eye-catching, Yi Fei was still from the Sword Palace. Even if some people had thoughts about it, they did not dare to openly express it. Only Yang Ming's cold expression suddenly flashed with a hint of mockery when he heard Yi Fei's words. Clap, clap, clap. He actually started clapping for the first time. None of us here have defeated the evil Emperor Sword before, so naturally, no one can point out your flaws. It's a pity that you can fool others, but you can't fool me. Yang Ming, what do you mean? Ziyu was very puzzled. I know that Yin-Yang Palace and Sword Palace have a grudge, but you don't have to target Yi Fei like this. If Yi Fei hadn't defeated the evil Emperor Sword, there would have been casualties among us. Yang Ming nodded and then shook his head. His cold expression suddenly flashed with a hint of evil charm. So, we should be thanking him, thanking this fake Sword Palace person? Boom. Yang Ming's words shocked everyone present. Purple Moon looked at Yi Fei in shock. Fake? You're not from Sword Palace? Strange, if you're not from Sword Palace, then how did you enter Supreme Emperor Heaven? Or is Yang Ming purposely targeting you? Ziyu was completely confused, and so were the others. However, they believed that Yang Ming would definitely give a reasonable explanation. Compared to the unfamiliar Yi Fei, they trusted Yang Ming more. Yi Fei's heart thumped. He did not understand where he had exposed himself, but on the surface, he remained calm and said in a deep voice, "You said that I'm not from Sword Palace, do you have proof?" Yang Ming stared coldly at Yi Fei and sneered. "Your disguise has always been very successful, especially that heavy sword of yours. Even I almost thought that you were from Sword Palace, but unfortunately, you shouldn't have used your golden body of laws when you were fighting the evil Emperor sword. Do you know that the golden body of laws was once a sacred art of the heavenly palace of despair? You used such a sacred art, yet you claim to be from Sword Palace. Don't you think that's ridiculous? Yi Fei calmly shook his head. That's not necessarily true. Perhaps I obtained the sacred art of the heavenly palace of despair by chance. Can't I cultivate it myself? Cultivate it yourself? Yang Ming's smile became even colder. I forgot to tell you. Back then, the heavenly palace of despair was destroyed by our Yin-Yang palace under orders. All the martial arts of the heavenly palace of despair were destroyed. Where did you go to learn them yourself? Boom! As he spoke, a powerful aura suddenly appeared behind Yang Ming, wanting to completely envelop Yi Fei. Yi Fei cursed inwardly. Only now did he realize that he had given himself away. So the Tao of Despair came from the heavenly palace of despair, and the heavenly palace of despair was destroyed by the Yin-Yang palace. He used the martial arts of the heavenly palace of despair, and claimed to be a disciple of Sword Palace. Wasn't that a confession? Of course, he could also take out the Undying Sword token to prove his innocence. But if he did that, not only would he expose his greatest secret, but he would also alarm the Sword Palace, who would come and take away the sword token. Yi Fei immediately felt depressed. Ziyu still didn't believe him. If he isn't from Sword Palace, then how did he enter the Supreme Emperor Heaven that only we can enter? It's very simple. The Heavenly Palace of Despair was one of the top 10 factions, but it was destroyed later on. The Sword Palace then overtook it. If he really is a remnant of the Heavenly Palace of Despair, then he can naturally enter the Supreme Emperor Heaven by keeping a celestial essence door. The ones who answered were a few youths beside Yang Ming. Their eyes were greedily staring at the light of laws in Yi Fei's hand. In the Supreme Emperor Heaven, the top 10 nomological demonic beasts all had special abilities. Their value was also much higher than ordinary nomological demonic beasts. If Yi Fei was from Sword Palace, then they wouldn't have dared to make a move on him, even if they were envious. Unfortunately, Yi Fei was a fake. Even if he had entered the Supreme Emperor Heaven, he had snuck in. Their greed was instantly aroused. When he felt their gazes, Yi Fei's expression suddenly turned cold. After saying so much, aren't you all still here for the evil Emperor's sword in my hand? So what if we are? The Supreme Emperor Heaven is the territory of the top 10 factions. Who do you think you are to sneak in and fish in troubled waters? If you hand over the evil Emperor's sword now, we can still let you off this time. Another few youths stepped forward and stared fervently at the evil Emperor's sword in Yi Fei's hand. Just a moment ago, these youths had been besieged by nomological demonic beasts and had been in a perilous situation. If Yi Fei hadn't defeated the evil Emperor's sword and scared off the other demonic beasts, some of them might have perished. However, they had turned hostile and wanted to snatch the treasure. Yi Fei couldn't help but sigh and raise his hand. You all want the evil Emperor's sword, right? All right, I'll give it to you. He opened his hand, but no light flew out. Instead, the evil Emperor's sword in his hand was instantly refined into nomological laws and poured into Yi Fei's body. This action was like a slap to the face. The youths' faces turned red as they flew into a rage. Impudent! How dare you refine the evil Emperor's sword? Quick, kill him! Take advantage of the fact that he hasn't integrated the nomological laws into his fate wheel and refine them out of his corpse. Chapter 2180. Yi Fei's act of publicly refining the evil Emperor's sword had finally infuriated the youths of the 10 great powers. Apart from the few youths who were still hesitating, the rest of them were enraged and surrounded Yi Fei. The 2 men in white robes and purple belts from the Deity King Palace were gloating. They had seen how close Yi Fei had been to Ziyu and were furious. However, they couldn't show their anger because Yi Fei was from the Sword Palace. When they realized that Yi Fei was an impostor, they bared their fangs and charged forward without hesitation. They seemed to have forgotten that it was Yi Fei who had defeated the evil Emperor's sword and saved their lives. Ziyu's expression became even more complicated. She didn't know whether she should help Yi Fei or attack Yi Fei like the others to snatch the precious evil Emperor's sword. Although Ziyu was hesitating, Yang Ming from the Yin-Yang Palace didn't show any mercy. After all, the Heavenly Palace of Despair had been destroyed by the Yin-Yang Palace. When he realized that Yi Fei was a remnant of the Heavenly Palace of Despair, Yang Ming's killing intent surged. Kill! Yin-Yang Sky Flipping Palm. Yang Ming used the Yin-Yang Palace's powerful mystique. This mystique was the Lord of Heaven's mystique. Yang Ming was able to use the Lord of Heaven's mystique despite being in the Sovereign Realm. This showed how terrifying his talent was. Yi Fei's expression turned solemn. He was confident that he could take on Yang Ming alone. However, if he had to face more than 10 geniuses from the Divine Continent, he would have to bear a grudge no matter how strong he was. Boom! Yi Fei swung the black iron heavy sword in his hand like the wind. It was like a terrifying black iron heavy mountain. As it blocked the Yin-Yang sky-flipping palm, he had already turned around and retreated. He rushed towards the distance, wanting to jump out of the encirclement. However, it was a pity that those who could enter the Supreme Emperor Heaven were the elites of the 10 great powers. There were a few youths who used their fastest speed to seal off Yi Fei's path of retreat. They even wanted to take advantage of the fact that Yi Fei and Yang Ming were unable to split up to launch a sneak attack. Bam! 2 dazzling divine abilities landed on Yi Fei's back. Unexpectedly, Yi Fei didn't try to block them. Instead, he allowed them to land on him. At the same time, his golden body of laws emitted a blazing purple-gold light. Not only did it neutralize the 2 divine abilities, but it also neutralized them. It also neutralized his injuries. What was even more unexpected was that Yi Fei took advantage of the rebounding force from the 2 mystiques to accelerate and rush in another direction. That direction happened to be where the 2 white-clothed men from the Divine King Palace were coming from. The 2 of them were instantly enraged. Yi Fei didn't escape from other directions, but chose to escape from them. He clearly thought that they were the weakest here. How could they tolerate such contempt? Get out of the way! Suddenly, Ziyu's cold voice came from behind them. The 2 white-clothed men were stunned. Young Lady Z, this person isn't from the 10 great powers, but he sneaked into the Supreme Emperor's sky. Get lost. I won't repeat my words a second time. Anger surfaced on Ziyu's face. After struggling for a while, she decided to let Yi Fei go. It could be considered as repaying Yi Fei for saving her. The 2 white-clothed men didn't dare to disobey Ziyu's orders. Their expressions were incomparably ugly as they dodged to the side, allowing Yi Fei to rush past them. Yi Fei was slightly taken aback. Then, he nodded in Ziyu's direction and quickly rushed deeper into the mountain range. Originally, he wanted to ask Ziyu about Zhao Yu, but now it seemed like he didn't have the chance. He didn't have the chance. The moment Ziyu opened the gap, Yang Ming, the genius of Yin-Yang Palace, roared furiously from behind him. Catch him! But you must capture him alive. He must have a treasure that can restrain nomological demonic beasts. Yang Ming's eyesight is really sharp. I was already very careful and used my golden body of laws to conceal the indestructible sword token, but he still found out. Yi Fei was very depressed. After this incident, he felt that he had to be even more careful when using the indestructible sword's soul in the future. There were countless mountain ranges in Supreme Emperor Heaven and countless nomological demonic beasts. Yi Fei didn't try to break out. After all, the demonic beasts outside were weak and couldn't stop Yang Ming and the others. Therefore, all he could do was continue to rush deeper into Supreme Emperor Heaven. The deeper he went, the stronger the nomological demonic beasts were. Not only was there the 9th-ranked Evil Emperor Sword, But there were also terrifying nomological demonic beasts that were ranked even higher. Soon after Yi Fei had rushed out for some distance, a huge earth giant stood on top of a barren mountain in front of him. It roared at Yi Fei and Yang Ming, who were chasing after him. Not good. That's the 8th-ranked heavy earth giant. It's even more terrifying than the evil emperor's sword. When they saw the earth giant, some people turned pale and didn't dare to continue approaching. Only Yang Ming refused to give up. He clenched his teeth and continued to chase after Yi Fei. Everyone, don't be afraid. Even if we encounter the heavy earth giant, he will definitely be the first to be attacked. The closer he gets, the faster he will die. Yang Ming had a special ability called the Yin-Yang Eye. While others hadn't been able to see Yi Fei killing the evil emperor's sword, Yang Ming had seen it clearly. Yi Fei had used a very strange black sword. It was also that black sword that had defeated the evil emperor's sword and scared off the other demonic beasts. When he thought about the black sword's great restraint against nomological demonic beasts, Yang Ming's heart burned with passion. He couldn't wait to snatch the black sword away. At this moment, how could he let Yi Fei off so easily? Not only would he not let Yi Fei off, but a wisp of a cold light flashed through his eyes. Suddenly, he raised his hand and blasted out the yin-yang sky-flipping seal again. However, it wasn't aimed at Yi Fei, but at the heavy earth giant. Yi Fei, keep running if you have the gut. As long as my attack hits the heavy earth giant, it will immediately go berserk and attack you first, since you're the closest to it. Yang Ming wanted to use this method to force Yi Fei back. After all, facing the 8th-ranked heavy earth giant at close range, and one that was famous for its defense, even Yang Ming felt great pressure. Yi Fei's expression turned ugly when he sensed Yang Ming's actions. How could he not know that Yang Ming wanted to enrage the heavy earth giant and block his path? Unfortunately, you can't block my path. Since you're so aggressive, don't blame me for being ruthless. Yi Fei didn't retreat, but he didn't advance either. Instead, he took out the immortal spirit gate and opened the realm gate once more. Just like that, under Violet Moon's astonished gaze, Yang Ming's furious roar, and the heavy earth giant's thunderous roar, Yi Fei was attacked. Chapter 2181. Following Yi Fei's disappearance, the heavy earth giant was thoroughly enraged. These greedy youths, who had tried to kill Yi Fei for his treasures, soon encountered the most terrifying scene of their lives. The sky was filled with flying mountains in the face of the heavy earth giant's ridiculous strength and defenses. Even lifting a mountain was child's play for the giant. Many of them were crushed to death on the spot. Yang Ming, who bore the brunt of the attack, was smashed to the point of vomiting blood. He had no choice but to use the yin-yang escape art to barely escape the heavy earth giant's attack range. Many of them looked extremely miserable. Nearly 20 of them had chased after Yi Fei, but in the end, not only had they failed to capture Yi Fei, 7 of them had been smashed into meat patties by the enraged heavy earth giant. This was an extremely disastrous loss. The 2 white-robed men, who had been berated by Ziyue for not chasing after Yi Fei, rejoiced and hurriedly thanked Ziyue. Miss Ziyue, thank you for stopping us in time. You should be thanking Yi Fei, not me. If he hadn't given us face, do you think you would have survived just because I stopped you? At the end of the day, you are all too greedy. However, this Yi Fei is really strange. I originally thought that he had simply passed through the immortal essence door. After entering this place, I didn't expect that he actually possessed the immortal essence door. He even caused Yang Ming to suffer a great loss. How interesting! Unfortunately, he isn't from the 10 great factions. Even if he secretly likes me, it's not very possible for us to be together. Ziyue still felt very regretful when she said this. She even subconsciously assumed that Yi Fei had spared the 2 white-robed men because Yi Fei had a good impression of her. After all, Ziyue was beautiful to begin with and had many suitors around her. Yi Fei had no idea that his actions had been misunderstood so deeply by Ziyue. After all, he had spared the two white-robed men because he didn't want to clash with the Divine King Palace. This would prevent him from contacting Zhao Yu in the future. In the end, Ziyue had misunderstood him so deeply. If he had known earlier, Yi Fei would have rushed back to explain everything without hesitation. Unfortunately, Yi Fei was unaware of Ziyu's misunderstanding. Yi Fei's body entered the space gate. Soon, he was back in Qingzhou from Divine Land, inside the Grotto Heaven. However, only 10 days had passed. In other words, he could make a round trip from Azure Prefecture to the Divine Prefecture in 10 days. As for ordinary martial artists, even if they were sovereigns, they would still need to fly for 10 years to get from Azure Prefecture to the Divine Prefecture. Even if they took a specialized airship, it would still take around a year. From this, it could be seen how powerful the Celestial Gate was. No wonder Rizu is so nervous about the crystal love. It's just that this round trip costs 2,000 profound veins. This consumption is a little too high. Yi Fei suddenly felt a little pain in his heart. If he did not obtain the evil Emperor's sword this time, he would have suffered a huge loss from going back and forth. Looks like I'll have to bring Xiao Chao and the Dragon Turtle the next time I go to Shenzhou. Since he was sure that the teleportation of the Celestial Gate was not a threat, Yi Fei felt that it would be safer to bring Xiao Chao and the Dragon Turtle with him. Then, Yi Fei remembered that he had yet to completely refine the evil Emperor's sword in his body. He immediately returned to his room and entered seclusion to refine the power of the evil Emperor's sword. As he refined the evil Emperor's sword, Yi Fei was shocked to discover that the power of the evil Emperor's sword was equivalent to the power of 4 other types of second-level laws. So that's how it is. Even second-level laws have differences in strength. Perhaps this difference is based on the strength of the demonic beasts of the laws in Supreme Emperor Heaven. For example, the evil Emperor's sword that I obtained is ranked 9th in Supreme Emperor Heaven. Then, the power of the laws that I obtained should be ranked 9th among all the second-level laws. At that level, however, to be able to gather all the second-level laws in the world to establish Supreme Emperor Heaven and create demonic beasts of laws, the power of the ancient emperor must have reached an unimaginable level. Of course, Yi Fei's benefits were not limited to that. When he completely refined the evil Emperor's sword, he obtained a second-level law called the Evil Sword. Because the Evil Sword law was equivalent to the power of 4 other types of second-level laws, Yi Fei's realm suddenly rose from the early stage of the Sovereign Realm. He had reached the great circle of the mid-stage Sovereign Realm. Just the 9th-ranked Evil Sword law alone allowed me to reach the mid-stage Sovereign Realm. If I can refine the 8th-ranked or even 1st-ranked demonic beast of laws, won't I be able to reach the limits of the Sovereign Realm very quickly and break through to the level of the Lord of Heaven? When Yi Fei thought of this, he suddenly became very excited and had the urge to immediately return to Supreme Emperor Heaven. However, when he thought of the possibility that Yang Ming's group was still waiting for him inside, Yi Fei suppressed his feelings and decided to look for the Heavenly Dao Tree first. Inside the palace, the Heavenly Dao Tree had transformed into a huge divine tree that supported the entire Grotto Heaven. The Dragon Turtle was playing around the Heavenly Dao Tree. Of course, it was just playing around because it had eaten too much and was lying under the Heavenly Dao Tree to bask in the sun. After not seeing it for 10 days, Yi Fei was shocked to discover that the Dragon Turtle had grown 3 times fatter. It used to eat like a ball, but now it had completely turned into a pig. Yi Fei almost didn't recognize it as the Dragon Turtle. Seeing that Yi Fei had finally appeared, the Heavenly Dao Tree immediately complained, "Yi Fei, your tortoise is too difficult to raise. Other ferocious beasts would be full after eating 1 meal a day. 2 meals would be considered a blessing, but this tortoise actually wants to eat 6 meals a day. Not only does it have to eat 100 mystic veins, but it also has to eat pills and spirit fruits for dessert. Even these flowers of law required me to refine them into pills in advance. I even had to attach myself to it thrice before it was willing to eat them. The more the heavenly Tao tree spoke, the angrier it became. For the past 10 days, the dragon turtle had been lying under the tree like a big boss. The heavenly Tao tree was too busy just refining pills for the dragon turtle. It was no wonder that the dragon turtle had become as fat as a pig in just 10 days. Yi Fei's face instantly darkened. Sensing Yi Fei's unfriendly expression, the dragon turtle tried its best to flip its body over, but it was helpless because it had eaten too much. In the end, the dragon turtle could only look at Yi Fei with its limbs in the air. It even raised a small wooden sign and told Yi Fei very seriously that it was still a little turtle. This cub was at a crucial point in its growth, so it ate a little too much. Yi Fei wanted to slaughter the black turtle and stew it. He didn't even look at the dragon turtle and asked the heavenly Tao tree, "Where's Xiao Qiao? Didn't I ask Xiao Qiao to watch over the dragon turtle and supervise its diet? What? Lose weight? 6 meals a day?" The heavenly Tao tree faintly felt that something was wrong. Yi Fei was so angry that he almost vomited blood. This turtle is so fat. It won't starve to death even if it eats 1 meal for 6 months. After saying that, Yi Fei turned around and left. At this moment, Yi Fei had already sensed where Xiao Qiao was. It turned out that Ling Siki had actually come up from the land. The two little girls had reunited after a long time and actually played crazily together for 10 days. As a result, Xiao Qiao had neglected her supervision of the dragon turtle. Seeing Yi Fei's figure leave in a rage, the dragon turtle became extremely guilty. Its 4 legs swayed even more violently towards the sky. Unfortunately, it had eaten too much this time. No matter how hard the dragon turtle tried, it couldn't flip its body over. In the end, the dragon turtle had no choice but to cry out in grief and indignation. Then, it started to roll behind Yi Fei like a big black coal ball. Rumbling sounds could be heard as it started to roll behind Yi Fei. Chapter 2182. Just like that, the dragon turtle bounced behind Yi Fei, attracting countless shocked gazes along the way. In a certain garden in the heavenly abode, Xiao Qiao and Ling Siki were tugging at each other. Suddenly, they saw the dragon turtle bouncing over. Xiao Qiao's eyes lit up. With a wave of his hand, a gust of spiritual wind had already summoned the dragon turtle that was like a rubber ball. Ling Siki's eyes were even brighter. She held the dragon turtle in her arms and patted the ground. "Little brother, what did you feed Big Black in the heavenly realm? Why do I feel that it feels even better when I pat it?" Hearing this, Xiao Qiao didn't say anything and hugged the dragon turtle as well. With a light pat, the dragon turtle bounced up habitually. The eyes of the two little girls became incomparably bright at the same time. The dragon turtle's face was ashen. It hurriedly cast a pleading look at Yi Fei. Yi Fei pretended not to see it and continued to walk forward. His divine sense had already sensed that there seemed to be a very strong battle ahead. He walked over to take a look. Difan, Dongfang Yu, the army of destruction, Shui Yu, and these people were all here. Luo Shi and Xia Jun were also here to cheer. Jing Wushou and Zhao Qianjun were even acting as referees. The figures fighting in the air shocked Yi Fei. It was actually Lin Chun and Lin Gui challenging Lu Qing together. The most unbelievable thing was that the two of them were actually at a disadvantage in Lu Qing's hands even though they were working together. Yi Fei was a little surprised. He quickly saw that the martial arts divine ability that Lu Qing used was different. It was a very powerful lightning divine ability. It was even more exquisite than the Divine Star Academy's 5 lightning divine clock. It was also because of this that Lu Qing wasn't at a disadvantage even though he was fighting 1 against 2. In the end, Lin Chun and Lin Gui simply admitted defeat. "Let's not fight anymore. I really don't understand. We're both early-stage rulers, but why is your profound energy more abundant than ours? Your divine abilities are also more powerful than ours. This should be Lu Qing's Wheel of Destiny, which is of a higher level than yours. When you were at the initial stage of the ruler realm, you could only condense 3 types of second-level laws, but Lu Qing could condense 4 types of second-level laws. That's why her Xian Qi is more abundant than yours. Some Xian Qi will also become denser. Yi Fei hit the nail on the head and pointed out where Lu Qing's strength lay. After experiencing the tempering of the Supreme Emperor Sky and the group of geniuses from the divine continent like Yang Ming, his horizons had been greatly broadened. After giving pointers to Lin Chun and Lin Gui, Yi Fei looked at Lu Qing and said in a low voice, "If I'm not wrong, you should be using the Wind and Cloud Hall's supernatural power." "Yes, I'm using the Thundercloud Palm, which is the Wind and Cloud Hall's sovereign supernatural power. The Thundercloud Palm can only be considered a lower middle supernatural power in the Wind and Cloud Hall." Lu Qing's words shocked everyone present. Who would have thought that a lower middle supernatural power in the Wind and Cloud Hall would be considered a top-notch supernatural power in the Azure Province? This is the difference between us. In the Azure Province, we can only be frogs at the bottom of a well. If we want to become stronger, we can only enter the Divine Continent and compete with the true geniuses of the Divine Continent. Only then can we grow. Di Fan's expression was very solemn. He was an innate saint and the first person to break through to the ruler realm. However, not only was he unable to defeat Lin Gui and Lin Chun, but he also couldn't defeat Lu Qing. This was the restriction imposed on him by the Earth domain. Only by breaking this restriction could Di Fan truly grow. Hearing this, Yi Fei's heart suddenly moved. He said to Di Fan, "It's actually not too difficult to enter the Divine Continent. I just came back from there." Boom! Yi Fei's words shocked everyone present. Yi Fei actually went to the Divine Continent? But it had only been 10 days? Big brother, are you joking? It's only been 10 days, and you went to the Divine Continent and even came back? Xia Jun obviously didn't believe him. "I know you miss big sister-in-law, but you can't neglect second sister-in-law like this." Boom! Before he could finish speaking, a bolt of lightning had turned Xia Jun into charcoal on the spot. Everyone's eyelids twitched when they saw this. Yi Fei was even more speechless. Then, he told them about his experience in the Supreme Emperor Heaven. After all, it was useless for people from the Earth domain to be strong alone if they wanted to gain a foothold in the Heaven domain. Everyone had to be strong. And this experience in the Supreme Emperor Heaven allowed Yi Fei to see a way for everyone to increase their strength quickly. After listening to Yi Fei's story, Di Fan became visibly excited. "We must enter such a place." "Oh right, junior brother, when will the celestial spiritual gate open again?" Zhao Qianjun asked with interest. Among the youths who entered the Earth domain, only 2 had broken through to the sovereign realm. One was Di Fan and the other was Zhao Qianjun. Yi Fei naturally understood their eagerness to enter the Supreme Emperor Heaven. However, when he thought about the strength of the top 10 forces, Yi Fei shook his head and said, "Now is not the time. Just the Supreme Emperor Evil Sword, which is ranked 9th, almost made me unable to return. Let's wait for the limelight to die down. When the time comes, not only can senior brother Zhao and Di Fan enter, I hope that more people from the Earth domain can enter the Supreme Emperor Heaven. Of course, Lin Chun and Lin Gui can enter as well." "No, we shouldn't enter." Lin Chun and Lin Gui shook their heads seriously. "We can't compare to you. In fact, our talent is very limited. In this lifetime, it's already not bad if we can break through to the Lord of Heaven." The Lin brothers' words were a cruel but helpless truth. They couldn't compare to Yi Fei, Di Fan, or Zhao Qianjun. They could break through to the sovereign realm more because of their hard work and luck, not because of their talent. Realizing this, the 2 arrogant people gradually let go of their pride and started to integrate into Yi Fei's small group. Lin Tianjiao, Dongfang Yu, Xia Jun, and Luo Shi also did the same. They were former friends and brothers. Lin Chen smiled and said, "Although this topic is a little heavy, we still want to tell you that we don't plan to go to the Divine Prefecture. Our greatest wish in life is to destroy the imperial family of the Heavenly River and revive the Lin family. Therefore, we can only rely on you to climb to a higher level of martial arts. Yes, Yi Fei. We will wait in Qingzhou for you to break through to the monarch god level. Renzu, when the time comes, we can boast to others that monarch god Yi is now our good friend," Lin Gui said jokingly. However, Yi Fei didn't laugh when he heard this joke. Instead, he felt a little bitter. However, he knew that Lin Chen and Lin Gui were telling the truth. Their talent couldn't keep up with his footsteps anymore. This was the cruelty of martial arts. The higher you climbed, the fewer people you had who could accompany you. You would become more and more lonely. However, this didn't mean that Yi Fei would be high and mighty and forget about old friendship. He didn't say anything. He just walked over and gave Lin Chen and Lin Gui a big hug. "We went through life and death together. In my heart, you are not only my friends, but also my brothers. Whether it is now or in the future, we will always be brothers." Chapter 2183. It was not that Clear Cloud Pavilion and Medicine Manor did not take action, but they could not. After all, Soaring Snake had become a Tao Lord and was on equal footing with Old Man Qingyun. Most importantly, Soaring Snake, as a Tao Lord, was willing to call himself an old servant in front of Yi Fei. This intimidated Medicine King and Old Man Qingyun. Before they figured out Yi Fei's identity, Medicine King and Old Man Qingyun did not dare to have a direct confrontation with Black Rock Peak. This allowed Black Rock Peak to pass a period of relative peace. However, peace was always short-lived. Especially in Clear Cloud Pavilion, no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't find out Yi Fei's identity. Medicine Manor's prestige also suffered a blow due to Guo Tianjuan's betrayal. Gradually, Old Man Qingyun and Medicine King became impatient. Just as Black Rock Peak's protection period was about to end, these two giants of the Baiyun Nation began to meet frequently. Under the mediation of Tao Lord Chen Yang before he left, Clear Cloud Pavilion and Medicine Manor, the two largest factions of the Baiyun Nation, finally showed signs of joining forces. On this day, the King of Medicine went to Qingyun City again and paid a solemn visit to Old Man Qingyun. "Brother, we can't delay the matter of Black Rock Peak and Yi Fei any longer. Lord Taoist Chen Yang told us that before he returns to the Divine Land to ask Lord Baiyun for instructions, we must join forces to suppress Black Rock Peak. We must not let Yi Fei develop in the Baiyun Nation." Chen Yang is a Tao Lord. Am I not a Tao Lord? Old Man Qingyun was displeased. However, as a Tao Lord, he was a far cry from Chen Yang, who had Baiyun Divine Lord's support. Especially when he knew that Baiyun Divine Lord was backed by Wind and Cloud Hall, a major faction of the Divine Prefecture. Old Man Qingyun could not afford to offend Baiyun Divine Lord. He went. This was also the reason why he put aside his previous grudges and agreed to join forces with Medicine Manor to suppress Yi Fei. Faced with Medicine King's urging, Old Man Qingyun had already thought of a plan. "Medicine King, if you want to suppress Black Rock Peak, you don't need us to do it. There is another person here who can do it. Come, let me introduce you to someone." Old Man Qingyun smiled. He suddenly raised his hand and ordered someone to remove the screen behind him. Behind the screen, there was actually a person sitting upright. This person was wearing a python robe and was clearly a king. If Yi Fei were here, he would definitely recognize this middle-aged man as King Chu of the imperial family of the Heavenly River. "It's you, Bai Chuzhen. Old Man Qingyun, you actually joined forces with the imperial family of the Sky River." The King of Medicine was very surprised, but at the same time, he was somewhat vigilant. One must know that the Bayou Nation was divided into many warlords. Among them, the Medicine Manor and the Chinyun Pavilion were the two largest warlords. The Medicine Manor knew very well that if the forces of other countries were to enter the Bayou Nation, it would be a huge threat. Therefore, when the forces of other countries entered the Bayou Nation in the past, the Medicine Manor and the Chinyun Pavilion did not dare to do so. In the Clear Cloud Pavilion, they killed without mercy. This also served as a deterrent to the forces of other countries and allowed them to infiltrate the Bayou Nation. This also maintained the status of the Medicine Manor and the Clear Cloud Pavilion as the two overlords. It was only when Lu Qianzhong returned and revealed Renzu's treasure that they gradually broke this rule. At this time, the Clear Cloud Pavilion even openly cooperated with the imperial family of the Heavenly River. Old Man Qinyun quickly noticed the Medicine King's vigilance. He smiled slightly and glanced at King Chu. King Chu smiled and explained, "Medicine King, please be at ease. The imperial family of the Heavenly River only has one purpose in entering the Bayou Nation, and that is to kill Yi Fei and eliminate future threats." The Medicine King sneered. "That Yi Fei's identity is currently unknown, and he even has a Tao Lord following him. Are you sure that the imperial family of the Heavenly River has the ability to deal with Yi Fei? Are you not afraid of the powerful forces behind Yi Fei?" However, just Yi Fei alone was not enough to have a Tao Lord following him. The Medicine King and Old Man Qinyun were both astute people. Naturally, they could tell that there was a powerful force behind Yi Fei that could subdue the soaring serpent and make the Lord of Heaven betray him. This was also the reason why the Medicine Manor and the Clear Cloud Pavilion did not dare to attack the Black Rock Peak. They were afraid that if they attacked first, they would provoke the mysterious force behind Yi Fei. King Chu also sighed. It is precisely because there may be a mysterious force behind Yi Fei that the imperial family of the Heavenly River has to kill him at all costs. Otherwise, once Demon Yi matures or the mysterious force behind him appears, it will be the end of the imperial family of the Heavenly River. It will be the end of the imperial family. As he spoke, King Chu subconsciously touched his left arm. Although his severed arm had been regenerated, he would never forget the hatred he felt when Yi Fei severed his arm. For this reason, King Chu did not hesitate to enter the Bayou Nation personally to kill Yi Fei. The imperial family of the Heavenly River has a plan called the Yi Slaying Plan. If this plan succeeds, not only will Yi Fei die, but even Tao Lord Soaring Serpent will not survive. However, we need the support of the two of you for this plan. More importantly, we need the Bayou Nation to make way for our zombie soldiers." King Chu's tone was cold. It was gloomy. The Medicine King and Old Man Qingyun's expressions changed. Although they did not know what kind of zombie soldiers the imperial family of the Heavenly River would send out, they could not help but look at each other when they heard King Chu's confident tone. "All right, we can make way for the zombie soldiers. But I wonder how much we will have to pay this time?" Old Man Qingyun's tone was grave. The so-called making way was not as simple as making way. One had to know that raising zombie soldiers required blood and flesh. If there was not enough blood and flesh, the zombie soldiers would go berserk and even turn on their masters. 10,000. We want the Bayou Nation to provide 10,000 people with blood and flesh. As long as you dare to do so, we will dare to wipe out Black Rock Peak. King Chu's tone was even colder. Both the Medicine King and Old Man Qingyun's faces darkened when they heard that 10,000 people would have to die in order to invite the imperial family of the Heavenly River to send out the zombie soldiers. Black Rock Peak. It was as calm as ever, but behind the calm, one could see the shadows of cultivation. After Lin Chun and Lin Gui's reminder, everyone felt a sense of danger from the bottom of their hearts. After all, Black Rock Peak's current strength was still too weak. It would be fine if the Medicine King Manor and the Azure Cloud Pavilion did not make a move. But if they suddenly attacked, Black Rock Peak's current strength might not be able to withstand it. In this regard, Yi Fei had also made many arrangements. He had moved most of the people into the Grotto Heaven world. In the end, Black Rock Peak was only left with Di Fan, Zhao Qianjun, Lin Chun, Lin Gui, and a few other sovereigns. However, when he saw Lu Qing standing on the mountain peak against the wind, Yi Fei felt a little depressed. He thought about it and walked over to persuade him. Lu Qing, why don't you go into the Grotto Heaven? Chapter 2184. Lu Qing's face was filled with self-reproach. After all, if she had not been captured by Lu Baiyun and controlled by Lu Qianzhong, Yi Fei would not have risked entering Rizu's tomb to save her. He would not have killed Lu Qianzhong and become enemies with the Lord God and Fengyun Palace. Lu Qing was filled with self-reproach. However, Yi Fei knew that Lu Qing's self-reproach was not as simple as being captured by Lu Qianzhong. This silly girl was truly reproaching herself for revealing the secret that she was from the Earth domain to Lu Baiyun. After all, the fact that Soaring Snake was following him could scare the two small factions, Medicine Manor and Qingyun Pavilion. However, it could not scare a major faction like Fengyun Palace. As long as Lord Daoist Chen Yang returned to the Divine Land and spread the news, Lu Baiyun, the Lord God, would be able to easily deduce that Yi Fei and the others were from the Earth domain. Yi Fei, who was from the Earth domain, could not possibly have any major faction backing him. Lu Qianzhong's death would give this Lord God sufficient reason to return to Qingzhou and seek revenge. At this thought, Yi Fei sighed softly. He did not know how to make Lu Qing feel better. All he could do was stand silently beside Lu Qing. The two of them stood together on the mountain peak, facing the wind. They looked at the scenery of the Black Rock Peak and the Baiyun Nation. Suddenly, snowflakes fell from the night sky and landed on their heads and bodies. As the night wind blew, the snow became heavier and heavier. Gradually, a clear white color appeared in the dark night. This snow is so beautiful. Lu Qing reached out to catch the snowflake. Yi Fei widened his eyes and stared coldly at the snowflake that was about to land on Lu Qing's hand. Then, without saying a word, he suddenly pounced on Lu Qing. You! Lu Qing's eyes widened. Could it be that Yi Fei was about to go berserk because the snow was so beautiful? However, she soon saw a horrifying scene. The snowflakes that filled the sky a moment ago had now turned into blood. The night sky was very cold, but the snowflakes made of blood had a sad beauty to them. Lu Qing's gaze suddenly became incomparably sharp, and endless lightning appeared on his body. Boom! This lightning directly lit up the night sky of Black Rock Peak. Below the night sky, countless flowers of blood floated. Then, gusts of howling cold wind froze into ice, causing the entire Black Rock Peak to freeze. The mountain peak was dyed with a layer of terrifying icy blood. And at the end of this icy blood was a silent, gloomy army that emitted waves of cold air. There were more than 1,000 of them. It's the army. Could it be that the Medicine Manor has sent troops to surround and annihilate us? Lin Chen and Lin Gui were extremely nervous. At this moment, Jiang Zhen walked over. His body suddenly emitted boundless killing intent. I've seen such an army before. Back then, when senior brother Do Tian died in battle, the imperial city was also shrouded in red blood. Back then, Lord Du Tianzhuan had died at the hands of the Sky River Imperial family's Heavenly Corpse Ghost General. At this moment, the same blood had appeared on Black Rock Peak. There was no need to doubt the identity of the person who had come. I didn't expect that the first to make a move was not the Clear Cloud Pavilion, nor the Medicine Manor, but the Sky River Imperial family. Yi Fei's expression was cold. Lord Du Tianzhuan was his senior, the person who had enlightened him on the path of despair. Unfortunately, Lord Du Tianzhuan had not died in battle in the end. Instead, he had died under the claws of the Heavenly Corpse Ghost General. When he thought of this, a terrifying killing intent suddenly erupted from Yi Fei's body. This killing intent also caused the advancing corpse army to suddenly become silent. They were like cold corpses that were motionless outside the mountain peak. Then, a person walked out from the group of corpses. It was a man wearing an embroidered robe, but his face was incomparably cold. King Chu. Yi Fei. The man raised his head to look at the mountain peak, revealing a cold and stiff grin. Back then, you were just an ant. You relied on a treasure that could devour ghost generals to cut off my arm. Did you ever think that this day would come? I never thought that you would turn into a ghost instead of a human. No, you can't even be considered a ghost. You are just a half-corpse, half-ghost monster. Yi Fei shook his head coldly. The Sky River imperial family was definitely the most perverted royal family he had ever seen. They did not trust the living, only the dead. They even refined their own bodies into corpses. For example, King Chu was like this. Although King Chu's soul was still alive, King Chu's physical body was actually dead. It happened to be in a half-dead state. Not only King Chu, but all the corpse soldiers that followed King Chu were the same. Yi Fei even saw a few familiar faces among them. Bai Er. Their loyalty to Madame Meng was not tolerated by the Sky River imperial family. After they returned to the Sky River Kingdom with Madame Meng's body, they were refined into zombie-like corpse soldiers. Yi Fei sighed. Don't worry. Later, I will personally end all of you and also end your painful lives. Haha, Yi Fei, I'm afraid you don't know. In the Sky River Kingdom, the highest reward is to become a corpse soldier. The greatest glory is to exist in this world forever. So what if we are half dead? We can still cultivate and obtain a longer life than when we were alive. As long as our bodies don't decay, we can live forever. Yi Fei, I look forward to seeing you become a corpse soldier. Kill them all. Roar. Following King Chu's order, the 1,000-strong corpse soldier army under the Black Rock Peak coldly and bloodthirstily launched their strongest attack on the Black Rock Peak. Activate the array. Yi Fei's expression was cold. Although the Qingyun Pavilion and the Medicine Manor had not made any moves, the Black Rock Peak did not let down its guard. During this time, the Tian Fa Quasi-Emperor had specially returned to the Earth domain to consult the three great array masters, Tian Zhenzi, Di Zhenzi, and Array Fairy. Following their advice, he set up an eternal array. When this array was activated, the entire Black Rock Peak seemed to be hidden in an eternal kingdom. Although these corpse soldiers were extremely powerful, they were still unable to break the divine array that the array master had painstakingly created. King Chu's cold expression suddenly turned ferocious. His fingernails suddenly became very long, like 10 sharp swords, and he pointed them at Yi Fei. Ant, just you wait. Watch how I destroy your array. Roar. King Chu's body bounced up like a zombie. The sinister wind and ghostly aura suddenly transformed into 10 sharp black swords that slashed towards the eternal divine array. A cold smile immediately surfaced on Yi Fei's face. You dare to use your sword in front of me? Kill Taiji sword. Boom. Chapter 2185. You can actually sever my corpse claws. King Chu was extremely shocked. He wasn't an ordinary Lord of Heaven. He was a special half-human, half-corpse Lord of Heaven. This allowed King Chu to retain the realm and spirit of the Lord of Heaven while turning himself into the most terrifying human-shaped corpse soldier. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that King Chu was a living sky corpse. Ghost generals. However, ordinary sky corpse ghost generals were refined from the corpses of the Lord of Heaven. They were equivalent to special weapons and would be restrained by the undying sword soul. In order to resist Yi Fei's divine sword that could refine the baleful energy, the imperial family of the Sky River had painstakingly brought out these half-human, half-corpse soldiers. These corpse soldiers were in a half-dead state and weren't real corpses. Therefore, they could actually resist the refinement of the undying sword's soul. At the same time, the moment they sensed Yi Fei's powerful qi and blood, the thousands of corpse soldiers around King Chu roared and went completely berserk. Clearly, the qi and blood of living people was the best stimulus for these corpse soldiers. There was no need to boost morale or care about casualties. As long as they sensed the aura of living people, these corpse soldiers would go berserk and attack all living things. Roar! 2 corpse soldiers took the lead and charged towards Yi Fei. However, before they could swing their corpse claws away, a terrifying thundercloud suddenly appeared in the sky. Lu Qing's hair fluttered in the clouds like a furious lightning goddess. With a wave of her hand, the sky and earth were completely surrounded by terrifying thunderclouds. Furthermore, the corpse soldiers were of the yin attribute, while the lightning cloud was of the yang attribute. When the lightning that filled the sky bombarded the berserk corpse soldiers, the 2 corpse soldiers were immediately turned into charcoal. Then, they were cut into countless pieces by a sword light. At the crucial moment, Zhao Qianjun, the demonic sword king, made his move. His sword was still incomparably evil. After joining the demonic Saint Palace, Zhao Qianjun's evil sword had reached a new height. When the sword light shot out, it didn't just kill the corpse soldiers. It started to devour the corpse and evil qi of the corpse soldiers. Unknowingly, Zhao Qianjun had also embarked on the same path of devouring as the demon emperor. Zhao Qianjun's evil sword devoured a large amount of corpse energy and evil energy. A terrifying ghostly aura suddenly appeared on Zhao Qianjun's body. At the same time, Zhao Qianjun's wheel of destiny underwent a significant change. It was no longer a divine moon or a demonic sun, but a blood moon. A general's success is built on the bones of tens of thousands of people. He is a hero after slaughtering the common people. In the middle of the night, the moon shines on the heavenly stars. Talking and laughing for half a lifetime is also boundless. Zhao Qianjun made the call, and Di Fan actually responded. This innate saint was now surrounded by a vast and mighty purple aura. He looked like a purple god of war. What Di Fan used was the divine 5 thunders clock. However, after Di Fan's deduction and modification, the shape of the divine clock had evolved into a purple thunder mountain. Rumble! Di Fan threw the thunder mountain forward. In an instant, the space in front of him was blown up. It was unknown how many corpse soldiers were blown up, but they let out angry roars. Lin Gui was even more dumbfounded. Strong, Brother Ye's friends from the Earth domain are too strong. Each of their talents is more abnormal than the other. They are strong, but we are not weak either. Let this group of corpse soldiers know the power of my Lin family's divine ability. Snowstorm heaven and earth. Lin Chen made his move. He held the divine spear fluttering snow in his hand. 1 man and 1 spear, with the momentum of a snowstorm, pierced a corpse soldier on the spot and threw it into the air. However, before Lin Chen could make another move, suddenly, a total of 10 corpse soldiers surrounded him. At the same time, the thunderous sound of a bell resounded between heaven and earth. Jiangzhen had finally made his move. He used the divine 5 thunders clock that had been famous for a long time in the Divine Star Academy. While the huge god bell was hanging upside down on Lin Gui and Lin Chen, it also produced a shocking force of thunder that sent the corpse soldiers surrounding them flying away with numbness all over their bodies. However, the most intense battle was still the one between Yi Fei and King Chu. The 2 of them fought until the sky turned dark. Ordinary corpse soldiers could not even get close to this battlefield. After all, King Chu was not only a half-corpse, half-human monster, but also a true powerhouse of the Lord of Heaven. Yi Fei's divine power had reached the level of the Lord of Heaven. His divine power and heavy sword were extremely destructive to these corpse soldiers and King Chu. However, even though he had the upper hand, Yi Fei did not dare to let his guard down. While he was fighting with King Chu, he had already exploded all of his divine power. The black iron heavy sword had the power to shatter the void as it continuously smashed forward. At the same time, boundless sword light suddenly appeared in Yi Fei's empty left hand. This sword light originated from the Wuji, and from the Wuji the Taiji, the 8 trigrams. Yi Fei's strong swordsmanship foundation and the evil sword law that the evil emperor's sword bestowed upon him. This allowed Yi Fei's Taiji divine sword to finally reach the level of a ruler divine ability. Furthermore, it was the strongest ruler divine ability. In fact, Yi Fei had a feeling that if his cultivation level was higher, the Taiji divine sword would be able to reach the level of a ruler divine ability. If his Taiji divine sword had reached the level of the Lord of Heaven, the power of his sword might have reached the level of the Lord of Heaven. This was also the reason why Yi Fei had been able to sever King Chu's fingernails. It was because his divine power, dark force, and the evil sword law were all mixed together. Yi Fei's black iron heavy sword had indeed reached the level of the Lord of Heaven's divine ability. Boom! Boom! It was another head-on clash. Yi Fei's entire body was burning with purple-gold flames. Like an undefeatable god of war, he once again smashed towards King Chu. Not only that, his divine power, dark force, nomological laws, and black iron heavy sword combined to form a power that severed one of King Chu's corpse arms. A crack. Then, without waiting for King Chu to react, Yi Fei actually used his golden body of nomological laws to withstand King Chu's frenzied attack. He continuously struck with his sword, one strike after another, at the crack on King Chu's corpse arm. Yi Fei, you must die, you must die. You actually severed one of my arms again. King Chu howled like a ferocious ghost. One of his hands had turned into a corpse claw and was frantically clawing at Yi Fei's body. His other arm could not withstand the continuous slashes of the black iron heavy sword and was once again severed into 2. Ironically, this black iron heavy sword had been given to Yi Fei by Madame Meng as a favor at no cost. King Chu was so angry that his body trembled violently. However, King Chu did not continue to fight Yi Fei. Seeing that he was no match for Yi Fei in a one-on-one battle, the other corpse soldiers were blocked in their tracks by Di Fan and the rest who had suddenly appeared. King Chu suddenly let out a strange roar. The surrounding corpses suddenly trembled violently, as if they had seen a terrifying king. All the kings knelt on the ground one after another. Yi Fei suddenly felt a sense of trepidation. Oh no, since the imperial family of the Sky River has sent King Chu to kill me, then their methods are definitely not limited to these corpse soldiers. Everyone, retreat at full speed. Whoosh! Chapter 2186. Roar. King Chu quickly took out 3 blood coffins in the open space where the corpses were crawling. He did not even dare to open them himself. When the corpse Chi opened the coffins, King Chu acted as though he had seen something terrifying. He quickly fled and did not hesitate to burn his heavenly lord essence. Yi Fei's eyelids twitched violently as he stared at the 3 blood coffins that were slowly opening. Inside the blood coffins were endless blood chi and corpse chi. It was as if some terrifying evil existence was slowly sitting up from the blood coffins. Moments later, a cold sweat suddenly appeared on Yi Fei's forehead. Seated within the blood coffin were the corpses of 3 Tao Lords. Countless vengeful spirits were entwined around their bodies, forming countless faces that floated around the corpses. Tao corpses, those are Tao corpses. Rumor has it that Sky River Lord's greatest wish was to refine a Tao corpse, but he was opposed by the entire Tianhe kingdom and had to leave. No one knows if he's dead or alive. Jiang Zhen's face was filled with terror. Lin Chen and Lin Gui were juniors of the Lin family, so they didn't know as much as Jiang Zhen, a disciple of the Lord of Heaven. They looked at Jiang Zhen in confusion. The so-called Tao corpses are corpse soldiers refined from Tao Lord corpses. However, Tao Lord corpses are very rare. To refine a Tao corpse, it requires the blood sacrifice of 100,000 souls. Only then can it be refined successfully. Because of this, Sky River Lord was opposed by the entire Tianhe kingdom and had to abandon the kingdom. Now it seems that Sky River Lord didn't leave at all. He has been hiding in the dark all this time, researching how to refine Dao corpses. Jiang Zhen's eyes flashed with deep fear. Yi Fei also sucked in a breath of cold air. Only 100,000 souls could be refined into a Dao corpse. But here there were 3. Just how many people had the Sky River imperial family secretly killed, and how many souls had been sacrificed? Now we finally understand why grandfather said that the Tianhe royal family's decline was their own fault. They have no grudge against anyone. Lin Chen and Lin Gui sucked in a cold breath. Yi Fei was still very puzzled. Since these are Dao corpses refined by the imperial family of the Sky River, why did King Chu immediately flee after taking out these 3 blood coffins? It must be the imperial family of the Heavenly River. They can only refine Dao corpses, but they can't fully control them. Old Man Sky River is only a Dao Lord after all. No matter how powerful his evil arts are, he won't be able to control 3 corpse soldiers at the same level as him. Zhao Qianjun had a solemn look on his face. Yi Fei's expression also became serious. In the Earth domain, Zhao Qianjun was a great master of the evil devil Dao. Later on, he had joined the evil devil Saint Palace and obtained the evil devil Dao's true teachings. Zhao Qianjun's attainments in the evil devil Dao were extremely high. Since he said that the corpses could not be controlled, then they definitely could not be controlled. Roar, roar, roar. Just as Yi Fei stood on Black Rock Peak and watched, the 3 Dao corpses at the foot of the mountain finally jumped out of the blood coffins. The moment they jumped out of the blood coffins, the entire world became gloomy, bloody, and oppressive. The flying serpent and the Lord of Heaven nervously appeared from the shadows and completely protected Yi Fei. They were afraid that if Yi Fei died, they would die with him. The flying serpent even suggested with a solemn look, "Young master, these 3 Dao corpses are Old Man Skyriver's most terrifying trump card. I alone can't stop them." Oh no! The Dao corpses are attacking the mountain. The Lord of Heaven suddenly shouted. As he shouted, the 3 Dao corpses opened their ferocious eyes at the same time. Yi Fei only glanced at them, and countless bloody lights and the faces of men, women, old and young appeared in his mind. Bam! The first thing the 3 Dao corpses did after awakening was to work together to attack Black Rock Peak and plunder all the living beings they could sense. Under the attacks of the 3 Dao Lord corpse soldiers, Black Rock Peak's protective formation was like a lone boat in a storm, swaying back and forth. In less than 10 breaths, the 3 Dao corpses and nearly 1,000 ordinary corpse soldiers had blasted a huge hole in the eternal divine formation. In the hole, Yi Fei and the others' powerful qi and blood instantly drove the 3 Dao corpses crazy. Roar, roar, roar. The Dao corpses turned into bloody lights and charged at the flying serpent, the Lord of Heaven, and Yi Fei. They could sense the people with the most vigorous qi and blood. Behind the Dao corpse were hordes of undead soldiers, roaring as they charged up the Black Rock Peak. Yi Fei's mood instantly sank to the bottom. But soon, a strong sense of unwillingness and battle intent appeared on his body. Black Rock Peak is the only stronghold of the Earth realm in the Heaven realm. If we lose this stronghold, we will have nowhere to go. The other countries in Qingzhou will definitely not welcome us. Since there is no way out, then what's the harm in fighting? Kill! Yi Fei roared as the purple gold flame burned in his hand again. He took out the Invincible Sword token and awakened the Invincible Sword soul. Then, he took the initiative to attack one of the Dao corpses. However, the Dao corpse did not fear the Invincible Sword soul like the other Sky Corpse ghost generals. Sensing the threat of the Invincible Sword soul, the Dao corpse laughed sinisterly and did not give Yi Fei a chance to get close. The vengeful spirits around him had already formed a terrifying wind. This wind turned the mountain silent. it blew them into powder. Yi Fei, who was directly facing the Yin wind, had his golden body of laws shatter on the spot. He hurriedly used the invincible sword token to block in front of him and barely escape. His back was covered in cold sweat. Not only was this Tao corpse brutal, but it also seemed to have a certain level of consciousness. It was completely different from the ordinary corpse soldiers who could only passively listen to King Chu's orders. While Yi Fei was being blown around by the chilly wind, Meng Shi had already engaged in a fierce battle with another Tao corpse. However, facing the fearless Tao corpse, Meng Shi, who was a coward, was no match for it at all. After a few rounds of fighting, Meng Shi was completely suppressed by the Tao corpse. If the Tao Lord's flying serpent was so weak, then the Lord Heaven Gua, who was only at the Lord Heaven realm, was even more vulnerable. Not only did he not have the guts to fight with the Tao corpse, but he was also being pursued by the Tao corpse. Cries for help sounded one after another. Yi Fei then looked at Zhao Qianjun and the others, only to discover that they were all in a tough battle under the siege of nearly 1,000 corpse soldiers. Although everyone here, except for Lu Qing, had cultivated the 9 revolutions divine star art and could fight 1 against 10 of the same realm, it was a pity that there were not just a few hundred corpse soldiers here. There were nearly 1,000 of them. Moreover, there were also 3 terrifying Tao corpses. No one could stop them. Yi Fei knew that if this situation was allowed to continue, not only would the Blackstone Peak be completely destroyed by the Tao corpse, but the lives of everyone present would be in danger. Lu Qing even rushed to Yi Fei's side despite being scratched by the corpse soldiers and being poisoned. He shouted, "Yi Fei, you can't hesitate any longer. If this continues, everyone will die. The Blackstone Peak will also be finished." Chapter 2187. Opening the Grotto Heaven was the last resort. After all, once the Grotto Heaven was opened, the news would be leaked. With the wisdom of the King of Medicine and Old Man Qingyun, they would definitely realize that Yi Fei's backer was most likely a mysterious race that existed in the Grotto Heaven. Although they did not know that the Grotto Heaven contained the remnants of the Spirit Immortal race, it was enough to pose a huge threat to the Black Rock Peak, the Spirit Immortal race, and Yi Fei himself. However, there was no other way. The 3 Tao corpses released by the Imperial family of the Sky River were too strong. They did not recognize their own kin and were murderous. In order to avoid casualties and to protect the Black Rock Peak, the only foothold in the world, Yi Fei resolutely ordered the Heavenly Path Tree to reopen the Grotto Heaven. Heavens! The night sky became even darker. Endless black fog covered the frozen blood of the Tao corpses. This was the unique black fog of the Grotto Heaven. When the black fog appeared and shrouded the mountain peak, the entire mountain peak fell into the world of the Grotto Heaven. Grotto Heaven, damn it! This godforsaken Black Rock Peak actually hides a Grotto Heaven. In the shadow of the mountain peak, King Chu was as cold as a corpse, stiffly hiding behind a huge rock. Then, he saw the Grotto Heaven open with his own eyes. His face immediately turned gloomy, and he let out a silent roar. It was a roar. The roar formed a strange ripple that spread from the foot of the mountain to the top. Although the Imperial family of the Sky River could not control the Tao corpses, they could use some special methods to make the corpses angry and crazy. From there, they would become more fearless and savage. "Yi Fei, even if you hide in the Grotto Heaven, I will kill you. The Imperial family of the Sky River will not give you any chance to grow." King Chu covered his wound with a face full of hatred. The blood that flowed out of his broken arm was not human blood, but bone-chilling corpse blood. After that, King Chu casually grabbed an earthly venerate loose cultivator from the profound vein spirit-gathering pagoda that he had brought with him. Without any hesitation, King Chu had already grown his fangs. Under the horrifying gaze of that loose cultivator, his fangs pierced deeply into that person's throat. Roar! On the mountain peak, the group of corpses roared, as if they had been greatly stimulated. They became even crazier and attacked Di Fan and the others without any regard for their lives. The 3 Dao corpses in the air let out shrill screeches that sounded like the cries of owls. Then, 3 streaks of crimson light suddenly converged and furiously charged towards the strongest of the 3, Dao Lord Mengsh. Not good. Young master, save me. The flying serpent was so terrified that his face turned pale. Although he was a Dao Lord, he was no match for the 3 Dao corpses. Evidently, the 3 Dao corpses had instinctively joined forces after sensing that something was wrong. The combined attack of the 3 Dao corpses was not something that the soaring serpent could withstand. Left with no choice, the soaring serpent could only retreat in fear. They didn't even have the time to protect Di Fan and the others. After all, the soaring serpent didn't care if Di Fan and the others lived or died. As long as Yi Fei didn't die, that was enough. Yi Fei, however, was enraged. He roared at the soaring serpent, "Go back! If any one of you dies in battle today, I'll take your life. You're a Dao Lord. Can't you at least show some backbone?" Yi Fei was furious. Hearing the roar, the soaring serpent's eyes flashed with a murderous glint. He hissed, "Shut up! I'm a Dao Lord. How humiliating is it to be your slave? Since Blackrock Peak can't be defended, I might as well enjoy myself for once. I'll eat you, little demon, and then I'll eat that fat black pig on your body." Pig. Snakes were the most vengeful by nature, and the soaring serpent was even more so. In the face of danger, the soaring serpent didn't know how to resist. Instead, it went berserk and wanted to devour its master. First, it wanted to eat Yi Fei. Yi Fei's gaze turned cold. He was already considering if he should take out the token that controlled the soaring serpent and destroy this vengeful and cowardly soaring serpent. It was also at this moment that a series of heavy footsteps could be heard from the dark fog. It sounded like a giant was sprinting. Then, hundreds of treants that were close to 10 meters tall rushed out from the fog. "Spirit Lord, leave it to us." Boom! A strong hurricane suddenly blew in the dark fog. It was caused by hundreds of treants running at high speed. Just this gust of wind alone was enough to make Yi Fei and the others stumble. After that, Yi Fei saw a terrifying scene. A Treeman warrior charged into the group of corpses. Its gigantic divine wood palm suddenly emitted a green divine light as it slammed towards the corpses. Those corpses that even Di Fan and the others couldn't kill were smashed into pieces as if they were made from mud. They were instantly smashed into minced meat. They didn't even have the right to become skeletons. Roar! The appearance of the treant completely infuriated the 3 Dao corpses. They roared at the same time. Apart from boosting their morale, they also turned into 3 ghastly and terrifying rays of bloody light. With a whoosh, they pierced through the bodies of the 3 treants. Yi Fei's face suddenly turned pale. These treants were the only soldiers left in the spiritual realm. If they suffered too many casualties, how could Yi Fei face the heavenly tree and Xiao Qiao? Squeak! Seeing the casualties of the treants, Xiao Qiao's eyes were brimming with tears. He raised his vine whip and was about to rush out to help. In the beast mark space, the dragon turtle also hurriedly stopped Xiao Qiao. In the end, Xiao Cao's method was only effective against ferocious beasts and their souls. Against these corpse soldiers, there was nothing it could do. Cruel laughter filled the night sky. The 3 Dao corpses turned into bloody light. They were unstoppable in the midst of the treants. They pierced through the treants recklessly from the outermost perimeter to the innermost in one breath. During this time, countless treants' bodies were pierced through by the bloody light. Terrifying holes the size of mouths appeared. However, these treants didn't fall because of this. Then, a layer of intense green light erupted from their bodies at the same time. Zhao Qianjun, the evil demon grandmaster, was shocked. Spring has come upon a withered tree. These treants have such a terrifying regenerative ability. Boom! With Zhao Qianjuan's reminder, Yi Fei was shocked to see the wounds on the trance that had been pierced through by the 3 Dao corpses recover in an instant. At the same time, the 3 Dao corpses were piercing through the trance recklessly. Suddenly, the hundreds of trance. They attacked at the same time. Like hundreds of huge palms, they slapped the 3 Dao corpses viciously as if they were flies. Let alone a Dao corpse, even a divine dragon would be slapped hundreds of times in an instant. It would be stunned. In front of Yi Fei's eyes, the 3 Dao corpses exploded into pieces with a single touch. Not even their corpses were left behind. Chapter 2188. The flying serpent, which had just been about to attack Yi Fei, saw the 3 powerful Dao corpses being smashed into a bloody mist by hundreds of palms. The flying serpent was so scared that its entire body went limp. A smile that was uglier than crying appeared on its face as it hurriedly nodded and bowed to the battle tree men. It broke the smile. Unfortunately, these treants didn't even look at the flying serpent. After taking care of the 3 most troublesome Dao corpses, the hundreds of treants immediately lined up in a dense charging formation. With just a single charge, hundreds of restless corpse soldiers were instantly crushed to death, and a large number of them were smashed to pieces. Then, there were hundreds of millstone-sized divine wood palms. Like a wall of blades, they slammed forward in an orderly manner. They slammed into the void, causing the black fog to churn. They slammed into the remaining corpse soldiers, shattering them into pieces. The ground was covered in corpse blood and stinking corpses. Seeing this scene, the flying serpent was not just scared out of its wits, but it was so scared that its entire body went limp like a dough. It could only tremble nonstop. The flying serpent was not the only one who was trembling. Outside the black rock peak, King Chu saw with his own eyes that a group of terrifying monsters smashed the strongest Dao corpses of the imperial family of the Sky River into meat paste while swatting flies. He was so scared that his legs went limp and he sat on the ground. It's over. The imperial family of the Sky River is finished. The power behind this kid is actually a mysterious race that controls a grotto heaven. Even if we invite the old ancestor, we still have no chance of winning. At this time, King Chu was already regretting that he had so ruthlessly destroyed the Divine Star Academy and pursued Yi Fei. Yes. But it was too late to say anything now. Almost at the same time that his divine sense sensed that the 3 Dao corpses were killed, King Chu ignored the pain of his broken arm and was so scared that his soul almost left his body. He just desperately ran into the distance. Xiao Chao's spiritual eye of heaven and earth had long been secretly watching King Chu. Seeing that King Chu was about to escape, Xiao Chao hurriedly warned Yi Fei. Yi Fei's gaze suddenly turned cold. The exposure of the Grotto Heaven's secret is already beyond our expectations. The secret of the battle tree men must not be exposed so early. We must kill this person before King Chu spreads the news. Meng Shi. Young master, no, your majesty, this old servant is here. This old servant is willing to atone for his crimes by killing this King Chu. As he spoke, a shocking hatred flashed in Meng Shi's eyes. He did not hate Yi Fei, but King Chu. Damned King Chu, if you hadn't brought the corpses to attack the mountain, I wouldn't have lost my mind and acted like a snake. Kill. This damned noble must be swallowed whole. Master, come up here. This old servant guarantees that with 1 hour, we will catch up to this person. Hiss! As it spoke, the soaring serpent rolled on the ground and reverted to its gigantic snake form. It moved its head to Yi Fei's side and prostrated itself with a fawning expression on its face. Yi Fei did not say a word. His face was cold as he stepped on the soaring serpent's head. If it were in the past, if Yi Fei dared to step on its head like this, even if it was under control, the soaring serpent would immediately turn hostile and retaliate. After all, the soaring serpent was a Dao Lord and a former divine snake king. How could it tolerate a brat like Yi Fei stepping on its head? But things were different now. It had seen the 3 Dao corpses being smashed into meat paste by the battle tree men. Even if Yi Fei wanted to use it as a mount, the soaring serpent would still refuse. The soaring serpent did not dare to say a single word. In order to win Yi Fei's forgiveness, the soaring serpent worked hard for once. Not only did it volunteer to become a mount and carry Yi Fei, it also unleashed the full power of a Dao Lord. Boom! Everyone saw a huge soaring serpent soar into the sky like a flood dragon. In an instant it charged into the distance. Its speed made the dragon turtle sweat. Xiao Chao looked at the vigorous soaring serpent in surprise, then looked at the fat dragon turtle. Xiao Chao was suddenly very worried. Ling Siki, who was also staying in Yi Fei's beast mark space, did not mince her words. She expressed her worry. Big Black, you're finished. That soaring serpent's realm is higher than yours and it runs faster than you. Most importantly, it can find its own food and doesn't even need magnetite to raise it. Big Black, you're going to lose your job. Why don't you follow me? If little Big Brother doesn't want to raise you, I'll raise you. The little girl's expression was innocent and serious, causing the dragon turtle's face to turn ashen. He subconsciously looked at his round body that could not even crawl and could only bounce around. Suddenly, tears streamed down the dragon turtle's face. He deeply felt a sense of crisis, as if he was about to lose his job. Then, the dragon turtle did not say anything. With tears streaming down his face, he plunged his head into the pile of magnetite and started eating. Xiao Chao was instantly shocked, speechless. Ling Siki was also puzzled. That's strange. Didn't Big Black feel a sense of danger just now? Why did he suddenly start eating? The dragon turtle immediately put up a small wooden sign. It expressed with great pain that even if he lost his job, he had to eat his fill first. Yi Fei, who took the time to see the dragon turtle's wooden sign, was also speechless. He originally wanted to use the soaring serpent to provoke the dragon turtle. Who knew that this lousy turtle would be so fearless? Yi Fei could only helplessly withdraw his divine sense and stare into the distance. In the distant darkness, a figure with a thick corpse aura was running at an incomparably terrifying speed. He was running for his life towards Qingyun City. King Chu's face was filled with deep humiliation and regret. One had to know that the imperial family of the Heavenly River was very important to Yi Fei. They had even decided on a life and death situation that needed to be eliminated on the spot. Their great enemy had formulated this plan to slay Yi. According to the original plan, Yi Fei and the Black Rock Peak would have been destroyed today, along with the 3 Dao corpses. However, the appearance of the group of Treants had completely shattered this plan. The soaring serpent's desperate pursuit made King Chu feel an immense sense of danger. This sense of danger finally made King Chu disregard his status and roar crazily. When he heard this roar, Yi Fei's expression turned even colder. King Chu must be roaring to seek reinforcements. Perhaps, when King Chu led the corpses to attack the mountain, Medicine Manor and Qingyun Pavilion were hiding in the shadows. They were waiting to take advantage of the situation. If King Chu escapes... Yi Fei did not finish his sentence, but it still frightened the soaring serpent. If the secret of the spirit immortal tribe was exposed, as Yi Fei's follower, he, the soaring serpent, would definitely be buried with him. There was no need for Yi Fei to encourage him. The soaring serpent was already hissing. Don't worry, my lord. Even if I have to risk my life, I will definitely catch up to that dog lord. I will eat him up. Damn scum. If not for you, I would not have been reduced to such a state. The soaring serpent was filled with hatred. Then, this shocking hatred turned into a huge motivation. In desperation, the soaring serpent even burned his Dao Lord essence. His speed became even more astonishing, almost forming a huge serpent shadow. In the span of a few breaths, he was only 100 steps away from King Chu. Chapter 2189. Bang! King Chu's stiff corpse fell from the sky to the ground. His space belt was snatched away by Meng Shi, who then respectfully presented it to Yi Fei. "My lord, this is my space belt. Lord, this old servant did not disappoint you and killed this half-corpse King Chu." Yi Fei did not speak, only looking at King Chu's headless corpse in a daze. Back in the Heavenly River Imperial City, it was King Chu and the old emperor who had joined forces to force Ren Tianxing to self-destruct in order to break out of the encirclement for him and Jiang Zhen. Like Ren Tianxing, there were many other sovereigns from the Divine Star Academy who had self-destructed. Originally, he should have been happy that Meng Shi had killed King Chu, but Yi Fei was not happy at all. Meng Shi's forehead was also covered in cold sweat, thinking that Yi Fei had not forgiven him. Meng Shi hurriedly asked carefully, "Lord, did this old servant not do well enough?" "It's not your fault, I just feel that something is not right." Yi Fei shook his head, his expression still a little gloomy. However, Meng Shi had already killed King Chu and had behaved respectfully. Blackrock Peak still needed Meng Shi, the only Dao monarch, to keep up appearances, so Yi Fei forgave Meng Shi. Backlash. In the end, snakes were rebellious. Meng Shi had no choice but to submit. If Meng Shi had been obedient and loyal, Yi Fei would have been more vigilant. Strange, what is this? Yi Fei took King Chu's spatial belt and flipped through it. He found a strange Xian Meridian pagoda inside. Although it was strange, it was because he had sensed a very weak life force within the Xian Meridian pagoda. Yi Fei's expression changed. Could it be that there are corpses hidden inside? Soldiers? Lord, don't worry. With this old servant here, no matter how many corpse soldiers come, I will eat them all. Meng Shi ate smoothly. His body swayed and turned back into a huge snake. He opened his mouth and aimed at the Xian Meridian pagoda. Yi Fei also activated his Xian energy and opened the space within the pagoda. "Spare me! Spare me!" Unexpectedly, what existed in the profound veins pagoda were not corpse soldiers, but figures with pale green faces. They had all been poisoned by the corpse poison, and their bodies were trembling and weak. However, Yi Fei could sense their realms. The strongest was only a celestial venerable, while the rest were mostly earthly venerables or even martial gods. How were these corpse soldiers? They were clearly a group of rogue cultivators. At this moment, the rogue cultivators were looking at Yi Fei with fear in their eyes. They were also looking at the soaring serpent behind Yi Fei. "My lord, there's no point in keeping these people alive. Why don't you just let this old servant eat them?" The soaring serpent opened its mouth and was about to swallow the people. Yi Fei shot a cold glare at the flying serpent, which immediately made it shiver. Its ferocious expression immediately turned into one of flattery, and it obediently retracted its snake head. "Humph, this little devil has the support of the Spirit Immortal tribe. I'll tolerate him for now. I'll let him be. I'll let him be. I'll obey him. Once I break through to the monarch god level and remove the restrictions on my body, I'll eat him, torture him, and teach him a lesson. That'll be more satisfying." The soaring serpent's eyes kept darting around. In the dark night they were like two bloody lanterns. They looked exceptionally frightening. At the very least, these rogue cultivators who were not even rulers were all frightened. Before Yi Fei could interrogate them, one of the heavenly venerable rogue cultivators was already crying bitterly and begging for mercy. "Young Master Yi, I have important information. I have important information. Young Master, please spare me." "You know me?" Yi Fei looked at the rogue cultivator with some surprise. The rogue cultivator's face was purple, but when he thought of what had happened to him, he suppressed his fear and nodded loudly. "I know you. I used to be a member of Clear Cloud Pavilion, and I was Gao Yu's subordinate. For a long time, Gao Yu ordered us heavenly venerables to disguise ourselves as rogue cultivators and monitor Black Rock Peak's every move." This person's words shocked Yi Fei. You were Gao Yu's subordinate. How did you end up in the hands of King Chu, a half-corpse of the Lord of Heaven? It was Gao Yu. He blamed us for not monitoring Black Rock Peak properly. He turned us heavenly venerables into lowly servants. A few days ago I was careless. When I was leading Gao Yu's horse, I accidentally overheard Gao Yu's secret. I angered Gao Yu, and he beat me half to death. Then, he treated me like food and gave me to King Chu. This person looked miserable. Yi Fei could understand how he felt. He was loyal, but not only did he not get any benefits, he was also thrown away like trash. After seeing what happened to Baida and Bai Er, Yi Fei pretty much believed this person's words. What secret did you overhear? Tell me. If I tell you, young Master Yi, will you let me go? Yes. That's good. I overheard that Gao Yu was actually discussing with the Iron Hand Lord of Heaven. They wanted to take advantage of the Sky River royal family's attack on Black Rock Peak to sneak over to watch the show. Gao Yu said that you embarrassed him in Rizu's tomb. He wants to see how miserable your death is with his own eyes. Seeing the latter trembling, he did not look like he was lying. Yi Fei's expression did not change, but the uneasiness in his heart grew stronger. Gao Yu and the Iron Hand Lord of Heaven are also participating in this attack on the mountain? Meng Shi was also greatly shocked. Then, deep fear and nervousness flashed through his snake eyes. This is bad. My lord, this old servant is worried that the secret of Black Rock Peak might have been discovered by Gao Yu. Hurry back immediately. No matter what, we must find Gao Yu and the Iron Hand Lord of Heaven. Yi Fei's expression was solemn. He was vexed, secretly blaming himself for only focusing on guarding against King Chu's corpse soldiers. However, he had neglected the black sheep, Gao Yu. Meng Shi immediately soared into the air, and quickly rushed towards Black Rock Peak with Yi Fei. However, before Yi Fei could really return to Black Rock Peak, suddenly, a loud boom came from the foot of Black Rock Peak. There was also an angry roar of grief. Feeling that boom, Yi Fei's heart trembled violently. That boom was clearly the sound of a ruler self-destructing, and that roar of grief was even more familiar to Yi Fei. It was actually Jiang Zhen's voice. Yi Fei immediately clenched his fists. As he jumped off Meng Shi, he had already turned into a hurricane and rushed towards Black Rock Peak. However, he was still a step too late. He saw Lin Chen's face full of anger on the mountain rock of Black Rock Peak. His body had been pierced through the heart by his own divine spear. His celestial palace and soul had been completely shattered. Not far from Lin Chen, there was a piece of broken flesh. Yi Fei saw a hand in the flesh. It was a hand with a scar. That scar was the brand left behind when Lin Gui had been captured and tortured by the Iron Hand Lord of Heaven. And now this brand was covered with traces of blood. Lin Chen, Lin Gui. Boom! Yi Fei's mind was blown. He had not expected that in the short time he had left Black Rock Peak to pursue King Chu, Lin Chen and Lin Gui would both die tragically. He still remembered that not long ago, Lin Chen had smiled and told him that their greatest wish was to break through the Lord of Heaven and revive the Lin family. He still remembered that before entering the Baiyu Nation, he, Lin Chen, and Lin Gui had faced the Sky River royal family and the Blood Wolf gang together. Chapter 2190. At the outermost perimeter of Black Rock Peak, there were two disheveled figures running. These two people were none other than Gao Sickle and the Lord of Heaven. Gao Sickle was a vengeful person. Disregarding past grudges, just the encounter at Rizu's tomb was unbearable for Gao Sickle. Even though Rizu's inheritance was a trap, Rizu had put a lot of thought into the test in order to deceive everyone. Except for the last stage, which was a trap, the previous few stages all contained treasures left behind by Rizu. However, these treasures were not fated with Gao Sickle. Gao Sickle did not even pass the first stage, the bombardment of 1,000 thunderbolts. Because of an accident, he was eliminated. This made Gao Sickle the laughingstock of the Baiyun nation. Even old man Qingyun was extremely disappointed in Gao Sickle. It was also for this reason that Gao Sickle hated Yi Fei to the core. Gao Sickle had been looking for an opportunity to regain old man Qingyun's recognition. This opportunity came quickly. Not long after, King Chu of the Heavenly River royal family led the Heavenly River nation's most terrifying corpse soldiers into the Baiyun nation to execute the execution. Project Yi. Gaoing also seized this opportunity to secretly steal Old Man Azure Cloud's most powerful treasure, the Azure Cloud Mirror. This treasure mirror could easily conceal a warrior's aura and energy fluctuations. It could even conceal one's breathing and lifeblood. This was also the reason why Xiao Chao's spiritual eye of heaven and earth did not discover Gao Sickle and the Iron Hand's Lord of Heaven. However, what happened next was completely out of Gao Sickle and the Iron Hand's Lord of Heaven's expectations. They had come to see how Yi Fei would die, but they unexpectedly saw a group of mysterious giants kill 3 Dao corpses in an instant. This terrifying scene scared Gao Sickle and the Iron Hand's Lord of Heaven so much that they broke out in cold sweat. They did not dare to act rashly. It was only when Yi Fei led the soaring serpent to pursue King Chu and the Treants completed their mission and returned to the Grotto Heaven world that Jiang Zhen, who had relaxed, began to clean up the mess with everyone. Di Fan and the others, who could not reveal their identities, were in charge of cleaning up the bodies on the mountain peak. Jiang Zhen, Lin Chen, and Lin Gui walked down the mountain and were in charge of cleaning up the corpse soldiers that had died at the foot of the mountain. This action also allowed the usually bold Iron Hand Lord of Heaven to see an opportunity. Therefore, the moment Jiang Zhen and the other 2 walked down the Black Rock Peak, the Iron Hand Lord of Heaven and Gao Sickle attacked at the same time. First, they severely injured Jiang Zhen, who was caught off guard. Then, they planned to capture Lin Chen and Lin Gui. However, when the Iron Hand Heaven Monarch was trying to capture Lin Chen, he encountered Lin Chen's resistance. In the end, he flew into a rage out of humiliation and simply snatched Lin Chen's divine spear before stabbing Lin Chen to death. When Lin Gui saw that Lin Chen had died in battle, he knew that there was no way he could escape. He would rather die than become the captive of the Lord of Heaven. Knowing that they had caused a disaster and alerted Di Fan and the others on the mountain peak, the Iron Hand Lord of Heaven could only take Gao Sickle and flee in a hurry. They even used the teleportation platform to escape back to Qingyun City in one breath. However, the 2 people who escaped back to Qingyun City did not relax. Instead, their expressions changed drastically as they looked at an old man in green and a middle-aged man in a python robe who appeared outside the platform. "Grandfather, please forgive me this time. I only stole your Qingyun treasure mirror because I hate those lowly people on the Black Rock Peak too much. I wanted to follow them to watch the show." Gao Sickle's face was pale. When he saw Old Man Qingyun appear, he knew that his theft of the Qingyun treasure mirror had been discovered. However, Gao Sickle could not figure it out. Everyone who knew about this, except for the Iron Hand Lord of Heaven, he had dealt with them in advance. They were all thrown to King Chu's corpse soldiers as food. He could not figure out how the news had been leaked. "You can't figure it out, right? You bribed the people around me and used King Chu to kill all the subordinates who knew about it. How did I still know that you stole the Qingyun treasure mirror?" Old Man Qingyun's expression was calm and did not show any anger. Clearly, Old Man Qingyun had known about Gao Sickle's theft of the Qingyun treasure mirror. Gao Sickle was so frightened that he did not dare to breathe loudly. One had to know that Old Man Qingyun valued the Qingyun treasure mirror as much as his own life. If an outsider dared to touch it, they would definitely incur Old Man Qingyun's wrath and punishment, let alone take a look at it. This was also the reason why Gao Sickle would kill his subordinates so viciously. The Iron Hand Lord of Heaven suddenly thought of something and his expression changed again. "Could it be that you deliberately allowed Sir Sickle to steal the Qingyun treasure mirror? At least you're smart. If I hadn't given my permission, do you really think you could steal my treasure? Tell me, what did you see at Black Rock Peak? Was Black Rock Peak destroyed? Old Man Chingyun was calm and composed. This calmness was like an invisible pressure that caused the Iron Hand Lord of Heaven to not dare to hide anything. He hurriedly told Old Man Chingyun about the battle at Black Rock Peak. When he heard that the grotto heaven of Black Rock Peak had opened again, and that hundreds of terrifying giants had come out, Old Man Chingyun's calm expression suddenly turned cold. Just as I expected. I was already suspicious when the grotto heaven of Black Rock Peak suddenly closed last time. That bastard Mengshi's breakthrough to Tao Lord made me even more suspicious. It's just that I couldn't be sure what kind of power was behind Yi Fei. That's why I didn't make any moves and only invited the Yi clan. I took the opportunity to test the waters with the imperial family of Sky River, but I didn't expect. Hearing this, the King of Medicine's expression turned even uglier. I finally know why Guasankai betrayed us. He must have entered the grotto heaven and was captured by the mysterious race inside. Then, he surrendered out of fear. If I catch this spineless coward, I'll skin him alive and pull out his tendons. That's right. Did you see clearly what kind of race it was? In the heaven realm, other than the human race, there were many other mysterious races. However, these races lived in seclusion, and it was difficult for ordinary warriors to encounter them. The King of Medicine and Old Man Chingyun would never have thought that there was such a mysterious and powerful race hidden in Baiyun. They even became Yi Fei's backer. King of Medicine, we were too far away and didn't dare to use our divine senses. We were discovered by Yi Fei. We could only vaguely see with our naked eyes that the mysterious race was a giant about 10 meters tall. They were extremely strong. 3 Tao corpses were killed with a single slap. The Iron Hand Lord of Heaven and I also managed to escape with 9 lives. We even alerted the rulers of Black Rock Peak. We even risked our lives to kill 2 of them. Gao Lian lowered his head, but a sinister smile appeared on his lips. The Iron Hand Lord of Heaven naturally wouldn't expose Gao Lian's lies. After all, as the Lord of Heaven, it wasn't honorable for him to be unable to capture 2 juniors at the Dominator realm. He even forced one of them to die and the other to self-destruct. Old Man Chingyun didn't take Lin Chun and Lin Gui's deaths seriously. He only sneered disdainfully. It's fine if they're dead. In the end, the Lin brothers will only be buried with Black Rock Peak. There's also that Yi Fei. Did he think that by relying on the mysterious race hidden in the grotto heaven, he would be able to fight against Baiyun God and Feng Yun Palace? He was so wrong. No matter how strong the mysterious race in the grotto heaven is, it's impossible for them to produce a God Lord expert. Chapter 2191. A special funeral was being held on the Black Rock Peak. It was a funeral with the earth as the coffin and the sky as the tombstone. As Lin Gui had died from self-explosion, there was no way to find his complete body. In the end, Yi Fei could only cut off a mountain peak with his own hands and turn it into a tomb, placing it at the place where Lin Gui had self-exploded. As for the mountain peak where Lin Chen was nailed to death by the spear, Jiang Zhen carved the tombstone himself. There was only one word on the tombstone, Lin. From now on, the Black Rock Peak will be renamed as Lin Peak in memory of Lin Chen and Lin Gui. Senior Jiang Zhen, do you have any objections? You don't have any objections, right? Yi Fei stood silently on the peak of the forest and looked at the inscription on the stone tablet. He still remembered that when he, Lin Chen, Lin Gui, and Jiang Zhen had occupied this mountain peak, Jiang Zhen and the Lin brothers had argued over the name of the peak until their faces turned red. The past was vivid in his mind, but the people of the past were gone with the wind. Yi Fei's face turned gloomy. Jiang Zhen's expression was filled with grief and self-blame. I have no objections to the name change of the Black Rock Peak. This is all my fault. If I had not been so careless and brought Lin Chen and Lin Gui with me, if we had gone down the mountain together, we would have been more alert. Bam! Jiang Zhen's fist smashed heavily on the ground, causing the entire ground to shake violently. However, his face was slightly pale. In the battle last night, not only did Lin Chen and Lin Gui die, even Jiang Zhen was severely injured by the Iron Hand Lord of Heaven. When they saw Jiang Zhen's expression, Di Fan and the others' expressions turned gloomy. Guo Tianjuan's face was filled with dejection as he knelt down on one knee before Jiang Zhen. My lord, this matter is actually my fault. If I had followed them down the mountain, that Iron Hand Heaven Lord would not have been able to succeed in his sneak attack. Even if he succeeded, he would not have been able to kill Lin Chen and force Lin Gui to his death. No, we are the ones at fault. If only we could have gone down the mountain with Senior Jiang Zhen, Lin Chen, and Lin Gui. Di Fan and Zhao Qianjun were blaming themselves. Yi Fei felt a stab of pain in his heart when he saw everyone's expressions. He knew that the one to blame was neither Jiang Zhen nor the Lord of Heaven. Jiang Zhen didn't have the means to fight the Lord of Heaven, and the Lord of Heaven was also poisoned by the corpse poison while being chased by the Dao Corp. He had no time to care about anything else. The one who should really blame himself was actually him. If he had not insisted on killing King Chu to avenge Ren Tianxing and the people of the Divine Star Academy who had died, the Iron Hand Lord of Heaven and Gao Ying would not have found the opportunity to attack Lin Chen and Lin Gui. Looking at the blood steel with the word Lin inscribed on it, Yi Fei's face couldn't help but be filled with guilt and pain. Feeling Yi Fei's pain, a pair of soft hands suddenly gripped Yi Fei's hand tightly, giving Yi Fei the strength to pull himself together. That was his sister Yi Shanshan's hand. Brother, you are not to blame for this, and no one else is to blame. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame the Iron Hand Lord of Heaven for being too cunning and hiding too well. That's right, Lord, I remember now. It is said that old man Qin Yun has a treasure called the Azure Cloud Treasure Mirror that can hide any aura. Could it be that Gao Ying stole the Azure Cloud Treasure Mirror and came here secretly? The Lord of Heaven was after all a high-ranking member of the Medicine Manor. His words caused Yi Fei's face to turn cold. Zhao Qianjun laughed coldly. This Azure Cloud Treasure Mirror can actually escape the detection of the Spirit Eye of Heaven and Earth of the Spirit Immortal Tribe. It must be something that old man Qin Yun treasures as much as his own life. Such a treasure cannot have been stolen by Gao Ying. Even if it was stolen, it must have been old man Qin Yun's intentional connivance. Yi Fei nodded, thinking that Zhao Qianjuan's words made sense. Under the premise that old man Qin Yun did not have a clear understanding of the power behind him, given old man Qin Yun's caution, it was impossible for him to have a direct confrontation with him. However, old man Qin Yun could have used another method of concealment. For example, he could have invited the corpse soldiers of the imperial family of the Sky River to kill with a borrowed knife. For example, he could have used Gao Ying's vengeful nature to deliberately let Gao Ying steal the Azure Cloud Treasure Mirror and then come to Black Rock Peak to investigate the situation. This way, even if they were discovered, old man Qin Yun would have an excuse to say that this was Gao Ying's unauthorized action and that it had nothing to do with Clear Cloud Pavilion's position. I have to say, this old man Qin Yun is indeed an old fox. Yi Fei sighed. Looking at his companion who had fought side by side with him yesterday, and now they were strangers in life and death, Lu Qing's eyes turned slightly red. It's all my fault. If I had not come to Qingzhou, Lu Qing, this is not your fault. Even if you were not involved, Clear Cloud Pavilion would have attacked us sooner or later. Yi Fei suddenly rubbed Lu Qing's head forcefully. This action, which seemed to be comforting a child, made Lu Qing's face turn slightly red. After that, Yi Fei's gaze turned to the others. He said very solemnly and seriously, Lin Chen and Lin Gui's blood cannot be spilled in vain. Even if I cannot save their lives, I will make Iron Hand, the Lord of Heaven, and Gao Ing Pei with their blood. Where is Soaring Serpent? My lord, I am here. The earth trembled and the mountains shook. Soaring Serpent transformed into a huge serpent body and ran over. Yi Fei did not say anything. He only held the black iron heavy sword and stepped on Soaring Serpent's head again. His gaze, however, fell on the blood-red Lin word. Lin Chen, Lin Gui, if you know in the underworld, you must wait for me. Soaring Serpent, let's go. Boom. The huge Soaring Serpent rose into the air. Di Fan, Zhao Qianjun, Jiang Zhen, the Lord of Heaven, and Lu Qing flew up with it. In the end, even Yi Shanshan, Dongfang Yu, the army of destruction, Lin Tianjiao, and the others wanted to follow. However, Yi Fei stopped them. Only dominators can participate in this battle. After we leave, all of you retreat into the Grotto Heaven world. Do not give anyone a chance to launch a sneak attack. Don't worry, Spirit Master. We will protect them well. The dull voices of the Treants came from the black mist of the Grotto Heaven. Although the Treants were restricted and could not walk out of the black mist of the Grotto Heaven world, they were invincible in the Grotto Heaven world unless a divine lord came personally. As they spoke, a bottle of special blood that emitted a strong light flew out from the black mist. Then, the voice of the heavenly path tree came from the black mist. Yi Fei, we cannot help you this time. However, take this bottle of divine blood. Remember, you must not use it unless it is the most dangerous moment. Use it. With that, the heavenly path tree swept up the black mist of the Grotto Heaven world and swallowed the entire black rock peak into the Grotto Heaven world. This way, it would protect everyone. Yi Fei also took the bottle of blood with a solemn expression. After that, he did not say anything. He just charged towards Qingyun City with the rest of the group. This was also the first time after Baiyun Divine Lord left the Baiyun Nation that there was an intense conflict between Dao Lord. The entire Baiyun Nation and Green Cloud City were in an uproar. Countless forces were shocked and terrified. No one would have thought that in the Baiyun Nation, other than the Green Cloud Pavilion and Medicine King Manor, there would be a third force rising in the short span of half a year: the Black Rock Peak. What made many factions even more worried was that the Peak Master of Black Rock Peak was not the Dao Lord Soaring Serpent, but a mere dominator. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.